Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Grand Prix Virtual World Championship 2021, and it is with great pride and pleasure that we introduce you to the second round of the 2021 Supercup Championship season. And where better to take the racing here tonight than the Bahrain International Circuit at Sakhir in the beautiful kingdom of Bahrain in the Middle East. I'm Jake Sanson. Beside me is Caitlin Penny. On the broadcast direction, it is Heigo Poom once again. And it's going to be a fabulous second round of the championship with things very close after last time. Just a 2-point battle between Luke Maguire and Owen McGorgy after 2 weeks ago, when you were in the capable hands of Jack Nicholls and Caitlin Penny. So we're going to get straight back into the action as always. 19 laps for the sprint race later, but it's 28 laps for the first race of the day, which is of course the feature race around this 5.412 kilometer circuit. And we are going to have some absolutely sensational battles ahead of us. Caitlin, we are into qualifying already, and obviously the story is always going to be about Maguire versus McGorgy, Luke versus Owen. I think it should be a very interesting battle between these two tonight.
Absolutely, Jake. Thank you, and hello, everyone. Indeed, so McGorgy versus Maguire, that's the story that seems to be unfolding after the first round. And Luke is at the top of the times so far. We're only a little way into qualifying. We've only had 10 or so laps being set, but it is Owen McGorgy who is at the top quite convincingly so far. Still plenty of opportunities for things to change, obviously, but if you look at the benchmarks and the times for people to beat, then that's got to be as good a time as any. Fastest in all three sectors on that lap as well, but we still haven't seen everyone's laps. In fact, Maguire is still yet to set. In fact, he's still yet to leave the pit lane. So plenty more to come in this qualifying session, Jake.
There certainly is. Apologies for those to you who have been a little bit delayed in getting the screens up. There was a slight delay on our end at GPVWC. We have fortunately rectified all of our subtle issues. Just keeping an eye on the drivers on screen. Chris Butcher piling on the pressure, trying to get that gap down. He's about half a second off the pace of McGorgy, Stephen Sutton in the current order, bailing out of this particular qualifying lap. All of the drivers, of course, trying to find a little bit of an interesting battle ahead of us. It will be a very exciting battle for all of the competitors as they run forward. But obviously, there is going to be an interesting run from these competitors. They all want to be towards the sharp end, especially after the difficulties of Australia. Some drivers got to grips with Albert Park, despite it being a very technical, very tricky and very twisty circuit as well. You've got to remember that Albert Park doesn't really lend itself to overtaking opportunities. But as we know of old, Caitlin, this place is definitely Overtake City.
Of course, you've got three very long straights straight off the top of my head. You've got the one heading down towards the final corner, the one after the first sequence of corners, and of course the long start-finish straight as well. All very wide too, so there's not too much of an opportunity to block if you're the car in front. You've really got to be. You've really got to predict where your opponent's going and be 2 steps ahead of them rather than 1. But anyway, yeah, overtaking definitely possible on this track. It's also just about possible to fend someone off if you're ahead. But I would actually say that this is one of the rare tracks where I'd rather be the driver behind, especially when you have the DRS, sorry. But of course, the rest of the track very interesting as well. You've got plenty of different types of S's. You've got the little flat out flicks after the first corner. You've got the downhill sweepers, reminiscent of the craners but without the grass. And then of course later on in the lap you've got those uphill sweepers with the curbs that are just waiting to get you. So yeah, plenty of interesting talking points in this track. It's an underrated circuit in my opinion, and while it doesn't always produce great racing in reality, in sim racing it's just the perfect venue, I'd say.
Absolutely, and it's a circuit that has evolved since its creation and inception in 2004. It's definitely now one of the staples of international motorsport. It's held almost every form of racing there is at various points in its history. Here in GPVWC in the Supercup, it's already a very tight battle towards the sharp end. Luke Maguire on 33 points and Owen McGorgy on 31 after a very impressive start to the season. Tom Stevens on 25 and Jacob Kalbachik on 24. Vincent Gutt on 23 and Jason Muscat on 19 to start the ball rolling with the likes of Philip Koenig, Menno Klont, Alexander Ragoza and Michael Teichmann in the top 10, trying to get some decent points on the board. In the constructors' standings at present, it is HGP Motorsport that have a 19-point advantage presently over THR on 37. Multiforce GP have 33. Red Arrow Racing have 32. So a very close battle there for second at present. Sanson Motorsports in fifth position at present as well, with Friesland Racing Team in P6. Still a long way to go, though, in this title fight. Let's not forget there are 15 more events in the Supercup calendar, which means there are 30 races still to play out in this 2021 season. And as we know, again, of old, Caitlin, with the Supercup, it does have quite a few twists and turns over the course of a season. It's not just the Super League where all the action happens. These guys are very, very closely matched, and it's all about driver skill and good inter-team tactics in Supercup.
Talking of driver skill, here comes George Sutton across the line, and he goes second. So splits McGorgy and Maguire, who were right together before. Now that was the fastest second sector of all for Sutton there, and the top three are separated by just over a tenth of a second. Sutton actually less than a tenth of a second behind McGorgy, so it's looking very, very close at this point in time. The top two in the championship, always good to see them up the front battling together. But it's far too early to be talking about a championship fight. There are plenty of drivers who may not have been able to show their full hand at Albert Park, whose championship charge may start today. So realistically, while we've been talking about Maguire versus McGorgy, Sutton could just as easily pose a threat. Also look there at Chris Butcher and Damien Kardash in the top five. We've got a quick lap coming in from Moritz Kropp, actually. He's about to potentially go into the top five or so. So yeah, very early. Oh, and someone else just jumped up the. Oh no, Kropp only went to seventh. My apologies, but still. So plenty of drivers to look out for today, Jake.
Indeed, not a lot in it at the moment because several drivers try to find that little bit of additional pace and lap time. Carlos Fernandez has just popped himself up into the top 10 there, just a whisker behind Michel Galka and a whisker ahead of Vincent Kiersmakers. So a lot of drivers towards this sharp end at the moment. The top 13 drivers covered by less than a second. Still time for drivers to make a bit more of an impression as Vincent Gutt of the Red Arrow Racing Team makes a big mistake into the left-hander midway through the second sector, with this final sector obviously very much about straight line speed, and this is all down to incredible setup from the engineers, who are obviously putting in a lot of hard work to make sure that the cars are dialed in to get the best possible ability from the drivers. Craig Patterson running 21st at present, just a whisker in front of Menno Klont of the Multiforce GP squad, and then Michael Teichmann way down in 23rd at the present moment in time. But then this is not uncommon. You do get to see a few drivers that will wait for their opportunities to get the fast lap times in. A yellow in sector 1 that could cause a couple of drivers to have a little bit of an upset for their qualifying time, as Craig Patterson is actually able to use, was that his teammate who was able to actually get out of the way, I think, for the Nova Sim Racing team. Yes, I think the two cars ended up helping each other. This could benefit Craig Patterson, and it does. Look at that. Straight up to 15th position. That just shows you the toe really does give you a big boost in straight line advantage, even on just one subtle straight of the course, Caitlin. It really is difficult to know just how much time you're going to gain until you're in that toe.
Yeah, the slipstream, of course, the hole in the air punched by a car, and you can effectively use them as a kind of windshield ahead of you, and gives you maybe an extra 5 or so miles per hour. But on a track like this, it really means a lot. It's a medium length circuit, and one with plenty of straights for you to gain, as we said earlier. McGorgy, talking of gaining, fastest of anyone in the second sector. His first sector was a little bit down, but still pretty darn fast if you look at it compared to some of the other laps. Quick first sector as well for Maguire, and I think McGorgy has abandoned that time. So I think it's going to be Maguire, who's important to watch next. But yeah, the slipstream, those drivers who can benefit from their teammates, I'm sure will benefit a lot. Michal Galka just got into the top 10 there, got into P7, although it's worth remembering, Jake, that he has a 5-place grid drop for this round.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a bit of a difficulty as we watch on board with Luke Maguire pushing very hard for Team THR, captained and of course chaired by Supercup former King and Team Hard alumni Toby Davis, as Luke Maguire gets the final turn. A nice run through the curb as he bounces across the rumble strip, and he bails out of the lap as well. So whether they're going to get another final lap in or not remains to be seen, because that's 2 minutes 15 on the clock. A lot of drivers obviously hoping for a bit of an improvement on that lap, but then deciding to bail. Tom Stevens, by the way, has crept up into the top 6 now on a 1:33.4. So Tom Stevens for HGP Motorsport now in P6 behind Chris Butcher and Damien Kardash. And then we have Michal Galka has come up to 7th place, just a whisker ahead of Moritz Kropp and Jason Muscat, with Carlos Fernandez still there in the top 10. Here's Menno Clont for the Multiforce GP squad, up to 13th. There you go. A much better lap time then from Menno Clont, a 1:34.0. And you've got to wait for the last possible opportunity to get these lap times in. So a lot of drivers obviously trying to utilize the final dying seconds of the session. There we're looking at the number 25 in the rankings. That's Scott Sovic of the Rowan GP squad. 30 drivers out there, of course, all trying to get lap times in. Philip Koenig is the only one not to have set an official lap time, as Scott Sovic has actually dropped to 26th as a result of another fast lap that's come in there from, I think that's going to be Jacob Kabachik, who has moved up a place or two and moved his way forward. Patrick Rojak has gone very quick indeed for the Lightning Racing Academy, done a 1:33.8 there to crack the top 10, just a whisker ahead of Jason Muscat. And that's a spin for Carlos Fernandez, who was trying to improve his lap time there. And unfortunately, he has caused a bit of a difficulty for several cars up at the midsection of the course. And that's a big shot for Vincent Kiersmakers. So Kiersmakers, unfortunately, who looked like he was on a fast lap, he was just trying to get out of the way of Carlos Fernandez, and there was nothing he could do.
Yeah, and that of course means that he won't get another chance in this qualifying session. First of all, you have to go back to the pits under your own power, and second of all, there's just not much time left. You've got under 30 seconds now left in the qualifying session, so no chance to improve. Just saw an improvement for Tom Stevens, but he's now back in the pits. You've got Patrick Rojak, improving in the first sector, and he's actually on our screen now in the kind of Alpine-esque liveried car. And a fastest third sector from Damien Kardash. Just missed out on improving his lap though, so he must have lost a couple of tenths or so in the first few sectors. But there's a guy who knows how to make his car dash in one sector alone. Lap time coming in from, and look at that, fastest first sector of Luke Maguire. We've got a challenge on here from one of the championship leaders, Jake.
Indeed, right at the death of qualifying as well. In fact, all of the top 5 drivers are on reasonable first sectors. McGorgy and Sutton have got 28s as well. 28.8 for McGorgy, 28.9 for Sutton. Sutton's gone purple in the second sector, so he's on a lap which could get in pole position. And let's not forget, they don't have to make a massive improvement on their qualifying time. We're only talking a few hundredths of a second as George Sutton, he's made a mistake in the final corner. That is devastating for George. It looked as though that could be a pole position lap, but he's got it wrong on the way through the final section. Luke Maguire was fastest of all in the first sector, a 41.1 in the second, so he's not been able to make a great second sector out of this lap as well, but he might be able to string it together to at least displace George Sutton from the front row of the grid. So he's going to try and find that little bit extra out of the final turn. Is it going to be enough for Luke Maguire to get into second position, or maybe even first? Yes, he's got second. Maguire gets onto the front row of the starting grid, just displaces George Sutton, and he's 0.027 off McGorgy's pole time. Very impressive. What about Kardash? He's gone 4th now. He displaces Chris Butcher, and Butcher, of course, bailed out of his qualifying lap. So Kardash has managed to get himself onto the second row. Brilliant final laps.
Look how close that is, Jake. The top, oh my goodness, the top three are separated by less than 700ths of a second. That is just about as close as you want it. Kardash and Butcher have exactly the same lap time in fourth and fifth position at 1:33.299. So it's even close in the top five. In fact, by 1 second, you can separate the top 16 cars. So this is anyone's game here, Jake.
Absolutely. This is exactly what we wanted to see from the competitors in Supercup. It's always going to be just that fractionally closer than some of the other competitions based on the fact that all of the cars are essentially built to run equal. It comes down to how they are engineered and how the drivers work with each other to set the cars up. But now we know that Owen McGorgy is the man who is on the top spot for this one. Luke Maguire in second from George Sutton and Damien Kardash. Chris Butcher and Tom Stevens on the third row from Michel Galka and Moritz Kropp. Then Simon Frillich and Patrick Rojak. Jason Muscat and Carlos Fernandez are just outside that top 10. Then Vincent Kiersmakers alongside Liam Rance. Menno Klont and Darius Andre. And then we have Tom Ely and Matthias Gujowski from Jacob Karbacic and Blake Checkitts. 21st is Craig Patterson alongside Colin Matiak. And then we have Vincent Gutt from Dan Hutt. And then Alexander Rogoja from Michael Teichmann and Scott Sovic. Mihailo Vincencevic, Mark Fuller, Philip Koenig is there in 29th at the tail. So an absolutely fascinating qualifying session from Supercup. They've given us plenty of entertainment and drama already, and we haven't even started racing, but we're going to see some exceptional battles now from the competitors. Now, we're into the warm-up session now, of course. They've got 10 minutes to work on the final tweaks and changes of these cars. Caitlin, you've been in many GPVWC session. What is significant about this 10-minute warm-up? What are the drivers and teams up to?
Well, in all honesty, Jake, it's a session that I don't really tend to take part in that much. I tend to go out in maybe the last 3 minutes or so just to feel what the car is going to be like on full fuel. Of course, that's basically what the drivers are going to be doing. It's too late to change their setup. They're in parc fermé conditions, so realistically, they're just out there to pass the time until the race starts, and some of them will be just kind of getting a feel for their car. It might have a difference for someone who feels they can lead a race lead the race in the early stages, because of course they won't have a car ahead of them. They'll be able to dictate the pace. Everyone behind that, of course, will have the added disadvantage of the turbulent air and things like that. So I guess if you did want to feel what the car is actually going to be like at the start, it's good to find another car out there on this formation or on this warm-up session, and run behind them for a bit. But yeah, realistically, they're just out there passing the time until the formation lap.
And it's interesting as well because this is a category where you have all sorts of drivers from varying different degrees of skill and experience. A lot of them have massive knowledge of what GPVWC racing is like, what these cars will feel like. Some of them are still getting to know it and are still very much in their infancy in this category. Interesting comment coming in from the YouTube feed. Marco Furlich writes, turn one gonna be spicy. Now that's an interesting comment, because we have seen this time and time again, not just in Supercup but in multiple classes, especially when the races are shorter as they are here in Supercup for the feature race, and it is tough to get it through to the heads of the drivers sometimes that, you know, you can't win the race at turn one, but you can definitely lose it. And here it tends to be, because that heavy braking point into a very tight, tighter than 90 degrees diameter hairpin, it's definitely tough to leave enough room for as many opponents as possible to get round.
It is, but it always strikes me how clumsy it tends to be at turn one here. I never think that it will be, because, you know, there's plenty of vision into the corner. It's not particularly fast. It's not particularly narrow either. So it's not as if there's only one line through the corner. There's enough room for several cars to fit through there at once on the first lap. But as you say, it's a big, heavy braking zone. So if you just misjudge the car in front of you, or if you get carried away trying to duck and weave on the start-finish straight and forget that you're going to have to reach your corner, then yeah, you know, it's more than easy to cause an accident down there. It should be okay until we reach turns 2 and 3. That's when it really starts to. That's when you really start to reach a bottleneck, because those are much faster corners where there's only really one line through. And if you get two cars going side by side through there, which we will on the first lap, you're going to have to be really heads up about where your opponents are, so as not to send them skittering off the road. Of course, we saw a massive accident there in Formula One last year, precisely because two cars tried to go side by side and one was moving over, and it was just a little bit, it just got a little bit tight. So turn 1, it's difficult, yeah. Turns 2 and 3 are even more difficult, especially on the first lap. So let's just hope everyone's got their wits about them.
Now, it's going to be interesting because we have already a few predictions coming in on the YouTube chat, which I'm keeping one eye on, one beady eye, because obviously a few people can give me quite an interesting insight into what's happening. Toby Davis is actually writing, Butcher has the race pace, Maguire has the track position. We think there's definitely going to be at least one THR on the podium. Certainly looking that way at the moment, but then Mike Bell has come up with an interesting prediction for the podium. I think he mentioned that he believes that it's going to be Butcher that gets the early victory. And then who does he suggest as being second place there on that list?
Stevens
in second place, which is not a bad shout. And then suggests Menno Clont for the podium. Now, he's got a lap time in qualifying, which is middle of the field. But I wonder if that's partially to do with this obvious interesting factor that we have in the feature race, of course. We have the pit stop race, but a lot of it comes down to initiative on the tyres. Now, there's going to be a few drivers that will obviously be forced to start on the softer compound, but then those who are going medium that can make the tyres stretch out a little bit in life could end up with a real humdinger of a position come the end of the race.
Now, Bell's prediction is ambitious, but not quite as ambitious as DF Racing 1's, who says it's going to be Sutton first, Sutton second, and Sutton third. So,
I don't see that one happening somehow.
No, me neither. I think we've got a Sutton fan there, but... I
mean,
yeah.
he could certainly get one of those three positions, but all three? Yeah, this isn't the love bug. I don't think you can manage that somehow.
If that does happen, I am going to be absolutely flabbergasted, but anyway...
It's going to be fascinating what happens at the start, at least, because you've got quite a few sharp starters towards the lower end of the top 10. There are a few races that we've seen some big moments from over the years into the first couple of corners. And this will be a key test of just how many positions a driver can make on that first 2 or 3 corners, because that really does change the face of an entire race. I'd love to say that these times that we've got coming up in warm-up are representative as to what we're going to see, but it would be very naive of us to be able to make that declaration, Caitlin, that obviously these times are absolutely representative of what's going to happen in the race, because as you say, there are so many different variables contending of what could happen. I love the comment that's just coming from GPVWC. Third Poom, second Penny, one Sanson confirmed. Who's Sanson? I'm not entirely sure who this chap is. Who is this Sanson? Never heard of him.
I think they meant Sanson there.
Oh, did
anyway.
they mean, were they having trouble with their worms this evening? Fair enough. Okay.
Their worms, indeed.
No problem. No problem at all.
Yeah, but anyone could win this, really. I mean, the top 5 were separated by pretty much nothing there. It could be any of those guys. And we all know what happens when drivers who are that close fight for so long. You know, things can go wrong, other drivers can snatch positions. We've got strategy involved. Remember, they're going to need to change tyre compound at one point as well. They could come out in traffic. You know, this is the kind of race that I love, because you haven't got, you know, a couple of drivers who you're like, oh, you know, they're going to run away. There's nothing that anyone else can do about it. Here, you know, if one driver gets away, they're going to be bringing a chain of 4 or 5 cars with them.
I think we could see plenty of overtakes, plenty of good battles, and we could see a few driver errors in the race as well, because we saw it 2 weeks ago in Supercup, a few drivers pushing a little bit over the limit, but we've seen it in Super League as well, as drivers are obviously trying to make that impression in the early stages of the season. They all sometimes, certainly drivers in the beginning of their Super Cup lifespan, they all seem to feel that, you know, the sooner they can get the decent result banged in and nailed to the mast, the more progress they're going to make. And it is a fascinating dynamic when you see these drivers really trying to push hard for a race win very early on in the season to really gain that momentum for the rest of the year. But as we've mentioned before, there's 30 cars battling for the victory, and there are 30 races still in this 2021 campaign. So there's a lot to be played out for this entire season. And you're going to see drivers find really good races under their belt, but are also going to really struggle. It's fascinating watching. You can see a couple of the drivers going very far over the apron here in terms of trying to find that little bit of extra speed. And even in the warm-up, drivers are pushing the limit, finding that little bit of extra grip, trying to learn what the car will do. And these cars can snap away from you very quickly, Caitlin. We know this, obviously. These cars are very quick and they've got a lot of grip, but it's very easy to see them snap away.
I like the way you said that drivers were pushing the limits, as we witnessed one driver practically reinventing the circuit out of the final corner and then bursting into flames for good measure. That's the kind of thing you only see in the warm-up session, luckily. And, I don't want to curse anything, but whatever. But yeah, absolutely, drivers are going to be pushing the limits here. We do, of course, have track limit violations on, so if the game thinks that you've extended the tracks too much, you're going to be getting a couple of warnings followed by a penalty. But anyway, you definitely can push the limits here. That's the advantage of having a wide track like this one, and the advantage of having a little bit of runoff before you get to the gravel. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people think it doesn't punish mistakes enough, and it encourages drivers to be a little bit over the edge on the limits rather than to the edge. But anyway, whatever the case, the drivers won't be complaining too much when they're out there. They're going to be using every inch of it, and we're seeing the foreshadowing of that in this warm-up session.
Indeed we are. The checkered flag is out on circuit here at the Sakhir International Raceway, the Bahrain International Circuit. Fabulous venue and fabulous opportunity to watch some great GPVWC race coverage action. I'm Jake Sanson. Beside me, Caitlin Penny. In the broadcast booth, it is Heigo Poom, as we are going to continue with some more Supercup shenanigans. It will definitely be rip-roaring and very exciting stuff from the 28 laps of the feature race and the 19 laps of the sprint race that'll take us one step closer to finding out who is going to be top dog in 2021 in the Super Cup. It's definitely been an interesting start to the season. As we know, it's already very, very close between our two top protagonists at the head of the standings, with Luke Maguire on 33 points and Owen McGorgy on 31. It is the latter that has drawn first blood in qualifying, so it could be very interesting to see how they get together at the start. HGP Motorsport has 56 points in the team standings at this point, with the likes of THR, Multiforce GP, Red Arrow Racing and Sanson Motorsports covered by just 11 points in their battle for second place. But it is still very, very early doors in this Grand Prix Virtual World Championship campaign 2021. And there are 28 laps going up on the board. So we will see some absolutely cracking action. This is the part of the race build-up, Caitlin, where I ask you to be daring. Pick a winner.
As I said, it could honestly be any of the top, probably 5. So I guess if I was going to be really risky, I'd go for whoever's starting 5th. I honestly can't remember who it is now.
I think it's Damien Kardash.
Yeah,
I think it's Kardash.
It may be. He honestly has a real chance of winning this. I think any of the I know I say top 5, but that's a completely arbitrary number that I've pulled out of wherever. And yeah, I've got a dice by the side of me. Let me roll it on the carpet. Hold it. Where's it gone?
Well, I tell you what, while you're figuring that out, let's talk you through the starting grid for this first feature race of the night. Owen McGorgy and Luke Maguire on the front row of the starting grid, from George Sutton and Damien Kardash on the second row. Chris Butcher and Tom Stevens will share the third row from Moritz Kropp for Nova Sim Racing and Simon Frilek of the Lightning Racing Academy. Rounding out the top 10, his teammate in 9th position is Patrick Rojak, and then Jason Muscat in the first of the Multiforce GP cars. Carlos Fernandez narrowly missing out on the top 10 for Rowan GP, and Michel Galka in Gallery 82 in 12th position. Then it's Vincent Kiersmakers for PB Racing and Liam Rance for Satellite, then Menno Klont for the Multiforce GP squad, and Darius Andre, who lines up on the outside of the 8th row. Row 9 is Tom Ely for RTD Racing and Matthias Gajowski for PZZW, then Jacob Kalbicic for Sanson Motorsports and Blake Checkitts, his teammate. Then Craig Patterson will start 21st on the grid for the Nova Sim Racing team. Alongside him, Colin Matiak in the second PB Racing. Vincent Good for Red Arrow. Dan Hoot will be there in 24th position for the Friesland Racing team. Then Alexander Vergozop for PZZW in 25th on the grid from Michael Teichmann of Friesland Racing. Scott Sovic will be on row 14 alongside Mihaljo Vicenjevic. And then rounding out the grid, it is Mark Fuller in 29th position. Alongside him, Philip Koenig in the RTD in 30th. Plenty of staggered strategies, of course, as well. Everybody in the top 10 on the softer tyres to begin with. Those running on the mediums are Fernandez, Kiersmakers, Ely, Gazowski, Kalbicic, Checkitts, and then we also have Matiak, Good, Hutt, Teichmann, Sovic, and Vicenjevic, who will be there on the mediums. This is definitely going to be very tricky to see who's going to get the best start, even never mind the victory, because we've got several drivers in that top 6. McGorgy, Maguire, Kardash in particular, Butcher, all very fast starters. Sutton has good track position and he's got good wisdom into that first corner as well. So we should see plenty of exciting moves into that first corner. But this is definitely a case of don't go ugly early. If you need to give space and concede a position, you may have to on that opening lap because this is a 28-lap race. It's not a sprint.
The dice came up 5, by the way, Jake, and 5th place is Chris Butcher, so I guess he's my prediction for the win. But anyway, so the drivers just lining up on the grid. This is very exciting. I have a really good feeling about this race, Jake. I've got a really good feeling about it, and I'm sure some of the drivers do as well. One of the guys standing from the pits, not sure who that is. We shall positively identify that guy in a little bit. But anyway, all 29 of the other drivers in position and ready. It's a packed grid, and 5 lights await them, Jake.
Bahrain International Circuit for the second round of the 2021 GPVWC Grand Prix Virtual World Championship Sim Racing Supercup campaign. And it is Owen McGorgy in pole, Maguire in second from Sutton, Kardash, Butcher, Stevens, Kropp, Frilek, Rojak and Muscat in the top 10. Let's race at Bahrain! A fantastic start as the drivers get underway in green flags, and it's a terrific launch from McGorgy, who holds the protection on the inside line. Maguire's trying to beat him around the outside line and hold plenty of grip. Has he got the undercut for the inside line? They're going to go side by side, and they've actually banged wheels. That was so close indeed between McGorgy and Maguire, but McGorgy has the initial pace down towards the first right-hander at turn 4, and McGorgy holds the line. Maguire, going very aggressive on the opening lap, has been able to tuck into second place there with Kardash and Butcher following in behind, but that was rip-roaring stuff as Maguire got stuck in very early, Caitlin.
McGorgy was smirking, and so are some other drivers as well, just sitting a bit too long on the start-finish straight, but they should be okay once they get that airflow going. Right, look at that. Is that 5th and 6th side by side?
We got a spinner. I think we got a spinner further back. I'm not quite sure who it was. Caitlin, sorry to interrupt there, but it looked to me as though we just had somebody coming around at the far side of the course. Didn't quite see, but I thought we had 1 or 2 cars there off a position. And as you mentioned, Caitlin, there are still a few cars that are smoking on their way down the back straight. But as you mentioned as well, again, you know, as soon as they've got those tyres and engines up to a bit of temperature, they should be okay. But it's definitely off-putting for a few of the drivers giving chase.
So here we go, towards the end of the first lap of the race. We've got slipstreaming galore down the back straight, and someone going extremely wide in the background there. Almost looked as if they were in the wall. They may have reached it, and I believe it was Fernandez, because he is dropping down the order, and he started within the top 12 or so, I think. Anyway, the end of the first lap, it's McGorgy still leading, followed by Maguire. There's the gap, you see it on the top left of your screen. The rest of the field snaking through. You've got Kardash up to 3rd, then Butcher, and I can't quite see who's in 5th position right now. But anyway, the rest of the field slipstreaming. And we're going to be seeing even more of that in a few laps' time when we have the DRS available, the rear wing flap. There's a couple of different activation zones on this circuit, so just you wait, Jake.
So one of our graphics appears to have dropped from the fold, the one that can tell us who's who. We're still getting to know that, of course, in the early part of the season, but we can certainly tell you how things are. There is Simon Frillick running in 8th position. That gives us a little bit more frame of reference. In front of him, Tom Stevens in the HGP car. So Simon Frillick hoping to move his way up into P7. A good start as well from Sutton, actually, to keep himself in the top 6, despite all of that badinage between McGorgy and Maguire being very distracting. Kardash getting a killer start as well, up into 3rd place ahead of Butcher and Kropp. And Moritz Kropp keeping himself nicely in the hunt there in P5. So a very good start initially. McGorgy being very protective in the early stage of racing as they ran down the main straight. He was keeping himself very much hugging to the pit wall. So it could be a very fascinating run from the start of things. I think we have already lost one of the drivers. So we did have a spin on that first lap. It was Blake Checkett of the Sanson Motorsports team. He appears to be out of the race already. So a disaster for Blake Checkett. I thought I saw someone going around in the background. And unfortunately, it was indeed Blake Checkett that has now dropped from the fray.
Checkett was very unlucky at Australia. He had an incident in race 1 when running right near the front of the order, and then race 2 didn't score any points, I believe, if I remember correctly, although I may be wrong. But he's a driver who's faster than he's shown so far this season. And out of the race already. We're looking at the lower positions in the points. This is the battle for P15 between Kiersmakers and Kalbarczyk, and around the outside, that was a good move there for Kalbarczyk. And of course, in this series, the points go all the way down to 15th position. So if he can hold on to that for the next 25 laps of the race, then he'll pick up something for his efforts.
A very good move indeed there from Kalbarczyk. I don't think Kiersmakers even saw that one coming round the outside. I thought he had him nailed, but was able to suspend that manoeuvre for the time being. I think we've actually got 2 retirements from the race, because Carlos Fernandez, the man you mentioned, who was just outside the top 10 off the start, Caitlin, is out of the race as well. So we've got Fernandez gone, Checkett's gone. So that is 2 early retirements as up the inside. That is a lovely move from Ragoza. So Alexander Ragoza gets the move there on Vincent Kiersmakers, and that puts Ragoza now into 16th position in front of Kiersmakers and Patterson. So we've already got some big moves in the opening couple of laps, and that's what the drivers need to do at this phase. They just need to start building themselves up into a good position. There are good overtaking opportunities here. Kiersmakers is going to try and repeat the move potentially. Meanwhile, we've got Sutton on the main straight, and we have got DRS enabled now, don't forget. So he is going to be trying to launch on Moritz Kropp. He dives around the outside, side by side for the lead, as McGorgy desperately tries to keep Maguire back. They bang wheels again, and they're still side by side. Maguire's gone left. That's where McGorgy's placed him. He's actually going to be a little bit ahead as they get to the braking zone, but is it going to be enough? No, it's not. McGorgy shuts the door. Maguire's going to get the switch back. They bang wheels again. Brilliant racing between these two on lap 4 in Bahrain.
Sutton up to 5th. Oh wow, Kropp going through to 5th. Look at that. Kropp through to... no, he doesn't. So Sutton holds him off. This is great racing at Bahrain. They're almost 3 wide down into turn 7, I think, and through goes Tom Stevens as well. Kropp loses 2 positions. I thought he was going to gain 1, but anyway, that's Shimon Frelick as well on the outside, and has to drop in behind. But this is great stuff, and with the DRS open, I think he's still going to come through. Is Shimon Frelick on the outside? Not quite. The corner goes left here.
I love it when the DRS flat becomes enabled in Supercup, because you just get overtake after overtake. And here comes Shimon Frelick once again to try and get his move on Moritz Kropp. As they go through the right-hander, both cars getting a little bit squirrely in the apex, but unfortunately the dirty air holds up Frelick the most. Look at Maguire still once again very much on the hunt after Owen McGorgy, and he's going to get DRS enabled. Look at McGorgy. He's going to go straight to the pit wall and then dance back to the middle of the circuit. He's trying to give Maguire a real tough mission here as to where he's going to go. He pushes him to the outside line, but if Maguire's brave on the brakes, he can actually send the car right round the outside without any hesitation, and he's got him. He's going to squeeze him, surely, as they come across the curb, and Maguire takes the lead. Beautiful racecraft.
That was proper Hamilton-Rosberg style stuff, 2014 style. But anyway, look at this. McGorgy coming back to him on the exit. You can sometimes get a bit of a switch back there, but you need to do better than that, I'm afraid. McGorgy's slightly twitchy, and that's because this is the first time he's been behind a driver all race, and just getting used to it. Damien Kardash right there as well. He had a really good start to this race, and he's taking advantage from it. But yeah, that was great fighting stuff from the top two there, and they've swapped places.
Kardash and Butcher are within spitting distance of that rear wing of McGorgy's car as well, so it's not going to be too long before they get the DRS very much nailed on the home straight. So it could be a fascinating little duel between these guys battling away. Excellent stuff so far as the contest continues. Maguire, McGorgy, Kardash, Butcher, Sutton, Stevens is your top six at the moment. It is due to be a sizzling little battle as this race continues, and we haven't even got to the pit stop phase yet. Maguire basically now playing McGorgy at his own game, trying to break the toe because it's worth so much here at Bahrain. And we're going to watch now again as McGorgy is now going to be the man who's going to cross straight onto the back wing of Maguire's car. Maguire's going to be a sitting duck. His only gain now is to be able to pull off perfect second and third sectors to try and snatch a gap away from McGorgy. McGorgy closes in on the brakies though, but he can't just slingshot it up the inside in the hope it's going to work, as we now watch Rojak, I think that is, battling away and around the outside. An absolutely sizzling maneuver between these two, and I think there was a big bang between those two, Rojak and Krop. A little bit of wheel banging, and now Jason Muscat is going to come around the outside. And watch out for the man in 11th. Liam Rance has got a chance now on the inside line as well. A little bit of hesitation between them through the apex, but they just about stay off each other.
Sizzling's a great way to describe that move and this fight as a whole. And yeah, Rojak up to 8th position there. I love the way you see the slipstream. Oh, as Maguire there looks up, he runs a little wide. He'll be able to put the power down on the exit. But I love how you can see the kind of slipstream snakes as they get onto the start-finish straight here, where one driver will go almost into the pit lane trying to break the toe, break the slipstream of the car behind. And the car behind follows, and the car behind them follows them, and then the car behind, and it just ends up with this massive train of cars just snaking down the straight, and it gives you this wonderful optical illusion almost of the whole track moving beneath them. It's wonderful to look at, and we're about to witness it again. And McGorgy only 7 or so tenths per second, or 6 or so tenths per second off Luke Maguire here. So I don't think he's going to be alongside him into the start finish or into turn 1. But he is going to well, Luke Maguire is definitely going to feel his presence. Kardash closer to McGorgy than McGorgy is to Maguire, and the top 4 are starting to break away now, with Chris Butcher coming with them. A little bit of a gap back to Sutton, so it's Maguire, McGorgy, Kardash and Butcher for the lead.
Clont getting himself stuck in with the satellite twins of Liam Rance and Darius Andre there as well. So Menno Clont trying to move himself up into 13th place, goes left. That's where he's sent. Good little bit of battles for the 2 or 3 cars up in front. Menno Clont trying the switchback maneuver, but it's well read by Darius Andre. Clont is going to try and commit to the move anyway, has to hang back because Andre has that well covered on the inside apex, and there's nearly 3 wide in front of them as they duel for position. Liam Rance is having to... He's basically having to bail out of the maneuver there as he got very close to Moritz Krop. And Michel Galka is providing the drama and tension there in 10th position as he holds his nerve up in front. It's interesting you mentioned about Damien Kardash in 3rd position, because he is now the one very, very close indeed to McGorgy. So McGorgy is closing up on Maguire all the time using the DRS to his advantage. But Damien Kardash with Chris Butcher in behind him. That's how I got confused. They're actually now really starting to tail in behind the 2nd place car as well, as Liam Rance is still hovering all over the back of Moritz Krop in the bid to get himself into 11th position. He's got a good chance of that actually into turn 1. This is not going to give him as much of a toe as he would like heading into the braking zone, but he'll certainly get a better chance of it into turn 1 this time around. And Maguire is going to continue this maneuver up in front ahead of McGorgy as we go down the main straight once again, and you can see just how big a difference this makes. Liam Rance might even get an opportunity into the first corner. He doesn't, because it's a very late bit of braking there from Moritz Krop as he gets closer to the back wing of Michel Galka in the attempt to A, attack, but also B, defend, because you've got to play devil's advocate for both sides of the party into the braking zone at turn 1 when you're in the middle of the pack. A massive tank slapper there from Michel Galka, who just about controls the car away from a very rapid slide. And you can see just how dusty it is and how difficult it is in that mid-apex camber corner. Oh! A big slide even further back as things get very tight and twisty between these two guys in the midfield. I'm guessing that's Ragoza and Patterson still having... Oh, no, it's even further back. I do apologise. That's Sovic and Michael Teichmann, and Scott Sovic very much a sideways slap on there as he desperately tried to move his way further forward. That was looking decidedly more Ott Tanak than it was Robert Kubica. Oh, and he's done it again, look. The back end is coming around. He's driving like he's in rallycross at the moment.
It's sandy out there, Jake. Sand surfing Scott Sovic, defending hard from Michael Teichmann and fending him off as they head up the uphill sweepers. Out in front, once again, we've got a DRS train down the straight. There are 3 different DRS straights on this circuit. This is the first of them. As look at Magorgi, he certainly made Maguire feel pressured. We're about to see the second of the DRS straights. I believe Rojak just got past Frelich on the straight, but here we go up towards turn 4, and then the other one is the back straight. If you look at it on a map, the one that separates the well, I never quite know what the double apex left-hander is called. I've heard it called anything between turn 7 and turn 12, so I don't know what it really counts as, but it's that and the uphill sweeper that split, or that separate the third DRS zone. And Kardash, Butcher and Magorgi are demonstrating that right now. Kardash might actually, I don't think he's going to have a go here, may have a little look at Magorgi just to make him feel pressured. There's a 4th straight that's actually longer than some of our DRS zones here. We're about to see that one. It's the one that separates the penultimate corner from the final corner, and I think actually, I'm not sure whether it's as long as the start-finish straight. It certainly feels like it is, but this possibly should be a DRS zone rather than the third one as it is. And that concludes a lap of the Bahrain circuit. And once again, we get that beautiful DRS sneaking effect down the start-finish straight, Jake.
We cannot be far away from pit stop territory either, because we're now on lap 10, and the drivers are obviously going to be featuring a pit stop in this race. As a little bit of a puff of smoke under the tyres there under braking for Damien Kardash, as Kardash in the Gallery 82 car is trying to nail Owen Magorgi's upside line before Magorgi can get close enough to retaliate on Luke Maguire. And this is the difficulty when you've got 3 or 4 cars battling for the same bit of racetrack. It's all about momentum, and it's also about patience, because you've got two drivers up at the front who are obviously battling away for position. They're trying to get that lead and extend it and disappear into the distance. But with Damien Kardash giving a lot of pressure to Owen Magorgi, he's just got to be a little bit more patient, Magorgi, because he can't be too ruthless in his attack of Maguire. He's got to be very patient in how he builds up to the maneuver, but at the same time, he's got to play quite casual. Now he's going to have to force the opportunity, I think, to get up the inside of Maguire. He can't quite make it stick. He's got to hope that he can get a decent undercut through the pit stops. Either that, or he's got to brave it for a maneuver on Maguire, perhaps before he's ready to, because Kardash is giving him so many problems. And if Kardash goes for an early move, we've seen it a few times in the past, when the driver trying to close on the leader is then attacked by the man in third, it can really ruin and upset the rhythm of the race. And Kardash is looking very hungry to get into second position. All he has to do is get a decent run out of the final turn. It's not going to be long before drivers are starting to peel for the pits. We can see that Kardash is definitely giving Magorgi plenty of hurry up now as they come down the main straight. And I think Kardash is going to have to go for a move here. Magorgi pulls across to try and thwart it, and Kardash decides to play patient. He's not going to force the issue, but the Gallery 82 car is definitely getting very impatient. Look, he's desperately trying to keep the car under wraps, but the dirty air is causing the front of the car to wash out from under him when he gets back on the power. This is going to be a tricky one to nail. But Kardash, look how close he's getting. He wants a decent exit out of turn 4. He may get an opportunity if he gets a decent line through the curbs. If the car doesn't wash out too dramatically, yeah, it just washes a little bit. He's lost a car length or so, Caitlin. There's nothing in it between these two in terms of raw speed. It's about patience and about finding the car in the right place at the right time to make the maneuver.
His brake discs are glowing red hot as well. You can see them on Magorgi's car in front, but Kardash has just seemed that little bit brighter because he's pushing that extra inch. But anyway, Three different teams in this battle of four cars. The only duplicate is THR with both Maguire and Butcher. But their problem, of course, is that they're separated by these two cars in the middle and can't really start to work together just yet. So if I was THR, I would be really urging Butcher to push as soon as he can. This isn't really the time for hanging back. But anyway, start-finish straight once again. Let's see what they do with the RS. Realistically, I'd say you've got to be probably within 0.3 of a second of your opponent, maybe 3.5, coming off the final corner to go for a move into turn one. And none of them were quite there. None of them quite in that margin. And I don't think they will be either down into to turn four. But that makes the final call. Oh, actually, watch Magorgi here. Look at this. Goes to the outside. Maguire covers him off on the inside. Slides the rear out a little. Kardash just reminding Magorgi that he's there, reminding him that he's not free to fight Maguire completely on his own. And they stay in the same order for now. But I was going to say, that makes the final corner the most important corner on the entire track. Because if you get that even slightly wrong, even if you're just not as quick as your opponents off there, then they're going to be within that margin. And you're going to have really no defense about them as they come flying past you in a straight line. Are we going to see that on this lap? It depends on who's got the nerve.
I tell you what, this is such an intriguing battle, and now we've got a change of lines through the top part of the course of the exit of Sector 2, because Maguire and Magorgi actually changing lines there. Look, Maguire desperately trying to break the toe of Magorgi. It's any second now, essentially, for these guys in terms of the pit stops, because it will be sooner rather than later. They're on the softer compounds in the top 10, don't forget. So they've got to try and second guess who's going to be making the pit stops. They go right up to the pit wall, which doesn't help either, because they're trying to second guess each other as to who's making the pit stop. But Gorgie very close this time to Maguire. He's going to make his first attempt to make the pass in this phase of the race. He's going to drive right round the outside. And is there going to be enough grip? Yes, there is. He dives in on the inside. Maguire keeps his foot stuck in. Watch for Kardash. Kardash has got a really good opportunity here as they run side by side. He's going to try and get both of them on the run to the inside line. He dives for the inside, and there's no change of position, is there? Kardash is going to try and keep his foot stuck in. He needs to make this work on Magorgi. No. Magorgi's got off. Magorgi spins.
Yeah, my goodness. Well, I think Kardash felt that he had that corner, and he had a very good claim to it. He had the inside line. They were side by side for a long time. Of course, Magorgi, knew that he was there. But of course, Magorgi's got to turn in at some point. I'd really call that a 50-50 there. Magorgi recovers in 6th position. Big shame for him, but something had to give there. I'm sorry.
Well, I wonder if that was Magorgi desperately trying not to bail out of the maneuver and just essentially keeping his foot stuck in a second.
Maguire's lost it from the lead.
Oh my goodness, Maguire's lost the car completely. He's pushed it too far, dropped the car, and getting back onto the circuit, he seems to have tagged Stevens. Oh my goodness, the two leaders from this race have both made big mistakes and cost themselves the lead. It's now Kardash who leads the race. Unbelievable.
I was watching, and Kardash pits here. I was watching Kardash intently up the hill there. He was all over the back of Maguire. He was actually alongside him almost. There was a bit of an overlap as they went up the hill, but he did not touch Maguire. Maguire lost it all by himself, possibly distracted by the car and his mirrors. And Magorgi, Maguire, Kardash, the Rojak crop, they're all in the pits after this lap. They'll all be going onto the yellow-walled medium tyre. Or the harder tyre. Oh, and look at this, Maguire and Magorgi side by side out of the pit lane, neither of them wanting to give here either. Magorgi's going to have to, but so the two drivers who were in incidents on that last lap, 3 wide with other cars on the exit. Oh, that was close, and that's Jakub Kalbacik there who has to split them. They were 3 wide on the exit. Vincent Kiersmakers with the DRS. Magorgi back to the inside, gets back past Kalbacik, despite Kalbacik's warmer tyres, and what a turnaround in the race, Jake.
Apologies for the replay system. It doesn't appear to be functioning correctly. We will try and get on top of it as soon as possible, but there's no doubt that this race has completely transformed. Butcher is now your race leader. Sutton in seconds now from Stevens, Frillich, Muscat and Clont. Philip Koenig, who started on the back row, by the way, is up in 7th place now from Kardash, who is the leading driver of the pit stoppers. So Kardash is now essentially in the net lead. And as David Yon rightfully points out, mistakes are creeping in with the tyres getting older. You've got to balance it out in terms of who's going to have the best grip, as Philip Koenig very nearly loses the back end altogether at the benefit of Damien Kardash. And now we've got pit stops. Sutton in, Stevens in, Butcher. Muscat has carried on, so Muscat is going to take the lead of the race for the moment. But it's definitely getting very hectic in the pit lane as Stevens nearly cannons into the back of Simon Frillich as they run out of the pit lane. So where is Stevens going to get out? He should be in and around McGorgy, who is coming down the main straight with Maguire. And surely he's going to let his teammate have the position. Indeed, he does. So interesting one there. Now the two teammates will work together. And surely the HGP cars can now work their way forward in this second phase of the race. But we got to half distance before drivers felt the need to pit. And for a couple of them, notably, of course, for the likes of Maguire and for McGorgy, they pushed it maybe a little bit too hard.
Muscat did this in Australia as well. He's always one of the latest to pit, and he leads the race for the time being. Kardash is stuck behind Koenig in the middle sector, and that might allow Chris Butcher to get back into the DRS zone on the back of Kardash. Kardash now up the inside of Koenig, and this is important for him. Can he clear him? It's going to be tough up the hill because you've got the sweepers. This is a fast section, of course. Both feel they're entitled to it, but Kardash gets the position. Good move and an important one as well. And he says, well, it's up to you now, Chris. What can you do about that car? And it also depends on whether Koenig comes in this lap or not, because Koenig is also still yet to stop. But anyway, Muscat has stayed out again, and into the pits behind him comes his Multiforce teammate Menno Clont. It's going to be Muscat first, followed by Kardash. The gap for the lead will be 13 seconds, and we'll wait to see how long Muscat goes this time.
Well, it's fascinating. You said at the start that you put your money on Chris Butcher. I said at the start we're going to put it on Kardash, and now they are effectively running net first and second after the problems. Problems! Collision! Is McGorgy, has he come together with Maguire? I think they've actually had a proper collision this time.
Yeah, well, so Maguire's missing bits of his car's body there, and I did not see what happened. He's out of the race, so Luke Maguire has retired from the race.
I'm watching it back again. I'm going to watch it back again. Maguire had the move on the inside line, and I think he actually got tagged by somebody coming out of the pit lane. Either that or... Well, it's tough to know exactly how that's happened, but McGorgy and Maguire have definitely hit each other, and that has caused an already controversial race between the two of them. But now Luke Maguire is out in the feature race at Bahrain. Talk about fisticuffs and fireworks.
The pit lane exit here is so difficult because you pull onto the racing line right as the cars around you turn into the corner. You've seen incidents there in Formula One plenty of times. Sanson Stroll 2017, of course, one of the more famous. But there have been others as well. I remember one in Formula 2 a few years ago. So yeah, difficult pit exit, and it's caught them out. Right, Butcher and Kardash right together. So that did allow Butcher to get the DRS off the back of Damien Kardash's car, and he's about maybe 0.4 of a second here. He could, depends on the setup, I think, but he could go for it. Let's look. Here he goes. Finds the outside, so Kardash covers him off. But remember, there is a left-hander coming up. Look at that. Kardash has the run still. He's all over the curb, so that's going to give Butcher the overspeed up towards turn 4. Butcher again looks to the outside, but doesn't get far enough alongside Kardash. Kardash runs over the curb again on the exit. This is a close fight, and I think that that won't be Butcher's only opportunity here. I'm pretty sure it won't be anyway.
This is definitely a fight for the victory now between these two.
Totally.
With Messrs Maguire and McGorgy definitely out of contention, it looks as though these two are going to be the ones fighting for the victory. McGorgy has continued, by the way. He is now down in 7th position. I don't know whether there was damage done to McGorgy's car, in the incident. It just looked as though there was a slight nudge between the two. I don't think it was malicious at all. I think they just ended up going for the same bit of racetrack at the same time. A pure racing incident, it looked to me, on that one. Of course, there could be some interesting arguments about that one. Owen McGorgy, though, still in the hunt. He's going after Jacob Kolbarczyk even. And Kolbarczyk is there in P6, trying to hang on to the position. Look how much the car is twitching mid-apex. If you don't have full confidence in that car, it's so easy for it to snap away in the middle of the apex. And the number 42, Owen McGorgy, is going to have a good run, but he bails out of it at the last moment. He doesn't want to lose any more points than he has to, especially knowing now that Luke Maguire is out of the race. And look at that. McGorgy uses the toe on Kolbarczyk's car until the last possible minute, just to give him that little bit of extra momentum up the straight. Jason Muscat pits as well, so Kolbarczyk, Ely and Muscat all decide to pit at the same time, and that leaves Chris Butcher in the lead as he battles with Damien Kardash, and the two of them now battling away for the victory. Kardash has now got to try and get one over on the man who has taken the lead, so we now have 4 different race leaders at the front end of this quartet, if you don't count Jason Muscat in the lead of the race earlier on as well. And we had a couple of other drivers towards the front in the pit stop phase, but if you don't count them, we've now had 4 race leaders. We've had McGorgy, Maguire, Kardash, and now welcome to the front, Chris Butcher.
Chris Butcher leads the race. Damien Kardash has to settle for second for the time being, but I'm sure that he will beg to differ. He does not want to be doing any settling anytime soon. So Chris Butcher for THR leads. Damien Kardash, Gallery 82. Tom Stevens is up to 3rd in all of this. And is he yet to stop? I think he might be, actually, because did he start on the harder compound tyre potentially, but we'll figure that out later on in the race anyway. Butcher, slight twitch, slight error through the final turn, and Kardash will still have the DRS. I am surprised though at just how fast Butcher's been getting away from Kardash on this lap. 5.5 tenths of a second is the gap. It won't be by the end of the straight, but Kardash has his work cut out. Oh, that's going to be wide. Jason Muscat there, passing Michael Teichmann on the straight, and that's because Teichmann's in the pits, Jake.
Yes, indeed, and this battle's still going on between Butcher and Kardash. We're getting a report that there might have been a bit of a moment that caused the incident between Maguire and McGorgy. Apparently, they were both overtaking someone at that point. Luke Maguire says that he was braking where he normally brakes, and interesting because there seems to be a little bit of an interesting debate. Some are saying that Maguire has braked early into the corner. Maguire himself is suggesting, well, he broke where he decided to put the brakes on where he normally brakes. So this incident is definitely going to have an awful lot of conversations into it, because it's definitely ended the race in the 3rd race of the season for the title protagonist, Luke Maguire, and it severely compromised the other, Owen McGorgy. Now, if McGorgy has gone into the back of Luke Maguire and ended his race, essentially McGorgy has inflicted what is known in the motor racing world as ABC, which is advantage by contact, and that is obviously going to potentially become a penalty his way, but that's something that we can't really focus on too much now. It's something that we have to pick up towards the end of the race and possibly even the end of the meeting. Meanwhile, Butcher still trying to get clear of Kardash with a very impressive run from Tom Stevens, running in 3rd position, back on the slipstream as we're on lap 20 out of 28, the closing stages of this feature race, and Butcher has Kardash reeling him in and absolutely eating up the advantage into the braking zone for turn 1. Such a massive gain in the toe once again.
He does tend to run wide there into turn 1. If he can get the better of that, then he will get a great advantage through turn 3. So just brake a tiny bit earlier through there, and it'll feel anticlimactic, but he'll have a better run on the exit. I've been back to watch the incident between McGorgy and Maguire about 5 or 6 times now. It appears they made contact either right at the start of the braking zone or before it. I presume it was right at the start, so as Maguire began to apply the brakes. But it's so difficult to see that from the angle that you see on the stream, and I can't go back to watch the replay in the server for some reason. So I'm afraid that's going to have to be up to the stewards. But they were indeed passing another car at the time. That would have confused things. And I can confirm that third car was not involved. They didn't directly touch any of the other two. So yeah, really, we're going to have to leave that up to the stewards and see what they decide about the whole thing.
Well, as George Whitehouse points out on the stream, THR versus HGP is going to end nasty at the end of the year. It's an interesting comment, but obviously these are the two teams involved, and they are the two top teams in the standings at this present time as well. So it could become very interesting. Now we've got a nice little inter-team battle going on here at Satellite between Rance and Andre, as Darius Andre tries to get one over on his teammate Liam Rance. They're in the hovering position behind Menno Klont, who has made good progress from 15th on the grid, is now in P10 in the Motorforce car as he runs behind Moritz Kropp. Now, two teammates, you don't want to be battling too hard, but trouble in paradise can happen anywhere in this sport. Is there going to be a move from Darius Andre? Oh, Darius! Goodness me! He got on the curb there and almost cannoned straight into the back of his teammate. The one rule in motorsport is do not hit your teammate. Darius Andre very nearly had his contract torn up in front of his eyes.
Goodness, well, yeah, they do say that's the cardinal sin of motorsport, and for a good reason, because it makes everyone unhappy. But anyway, luckily just about manages to get away with that win. Up front, the gap between Butcher and Kardash had stayed at about 6 or 7 tenths of a second the last couple of laps. I'm watching it intently, although it seems to be stable for the time being, which shows me that maybe Kardash is just biding his time until the last few laps. Because the trouble is, if you go flying past your opponent in the DRS zone, they can just as easily come flying past you either later that lap or the next lap. So sometimes it's better not to be in front until the very last lap of the race. Of course, in a single-seater, you don't tend to think like that, and you shouldn't think like that. You've got to take it when the opportunity comes. But it's about how you make that opportunity happen, whether you pressure them into a mistake or whether you go aggressive and try to force your hand. Try to force the hand a little earlier.
Yeah, a moment there from Vincent Kiersmakers, and he's now smoking as a result of that. I think he just got a little bit too eager, locked up the car into the tight left-hander, which opens out. And as a result of going side by side, who was he battling with there? I think that was Ely he was having a wheel-to-wheel with. And he just ended up rubbing wheels as he came through. So that was a very tricky maneuver anyway. But a very difficult moment, and I think that could be the start of a terminal incident, potentially. Meanwhile, we've got Tom Ely battling away with Jacob Kalbarczyk. Now, Kalbarczyk is an interesting one to watch because, of course, he was one of the last drivers to make the pit stop to change tyres. He's on the soft compound. How much grip has he got around the outside? Not enough to take on Tom Ely. This is the problem. You sacrifice track position by going mediums first, then softs. And it really causes issues for drivers like Kalbarczyk, who are obviously on the faster compound, trying to make the progress through past Tom Ely, but he just can't get the inside line. He can't force the issue. And the difficulty now is it's going to be a really difficult opportunity for him now to try and make progress. He wants to get into the points, but the most he's going to get from this race is 15th because of the time he's spent sat behind Ely. There's nothing you can really do about it. You can see in the background Kiersmakers' car still smoking furiously there as he's obviously pushed the engine just a little bit too hard towards the end of the race when he was trying to keep in touch with Tom Ely. And now these two are on it again. Here we go. Butcher trying to hang on in front of Kardash. Kardash could wait for a last-minute opportunity to get the run here on Butcher. He's staying so patient, and the Gallery 82 car might just have a chance to slingshot.
Galka just passed Rojak for P7 as well. Those two still fighting. But yeah, so Butcher has to, or Butcher maintains the lead there up in front. Galka and Rojak on the exit are going to do the same thing. That's a battle that's been going on for a little while now. And actually, Rojak not very happy to settle with it, settle for it just yet. He's still all over the back of Galka through the S's, although on the exit has to back away from it. Oh, thought he was going to go for a strange lunge there down into the double apex left-hander. That is quite a feisty car there. You see with Patrick Rojak behind the wheel. I often talk about the body language of cars, and you can tell a lot about where he is mentally from the way he's driving here.
Yes, indeed. And Kardash actually made a critical error in the end of the first sector into sector 2. He basically dropped the car off the curb quite heavily, and that's cost him a couple of car lengths. 5 laps to go here as Kardash is still putting the pressure on Butcher to try and snatch the lead away. The thing is, he's got time. He doesn't want to rush this maneuver. He wants to keep Butcher second guessing. He's the man with all the aces up his sleeves here, Damien Kardash. No, he doesn't have the lead, but yes, he does have the toe, and we already know how valuable that is around the Bahrain International Circuit. You can make so much time. So Kardash is the man in the hot seat. Butcher is the one sweating here. He's got to try and hold on to this lead, and Kardash essentially has got an opportunity to slam dunk the maneuver in the final couple of laps. He's got to think almost like a kart racer here. Got to keep Butcher second guessing. Where am I going to make the move? Where am I going to make the launch? I don't want him to predict when I'm making the overtake. I want him to get on the inside line and defend, and I'll get him on the outside before he even knows what's happening. And this is a tough situation for Kardash to be in, but he does have the upper hand here. He's got all the aces in his hand at this point. So down to the braking zone they come. Left-hander, coax the car in. Brake discs aglow. Still hunting after Chris Butcher. And Butcher keeping the car nicely planted through the fast apexes, up to the braking zone for the right-hander. Into the third sector they go, and this is where Kardash can make so much gain, a massive advantage coming his way, and he's managed to stay quite close to Butcher at the end of the second sector. This is where he's got a chance into turn 1. Butcher has got to play defensive for this latter part of the lap. This is very smoothly taken by Kardash, not so smooth from Butcher. A little puff of tyre smoke. On to the next lap. 4 laps to go here. And in the feature race of this third race of the season, in the second round of GPVWC Supercup 2021, Kardash is definitely giving Butcher plenty to sweat about. And he's giving him plenty of opposition as Butcher gets a little bit twitchy in the way through the first corner. And as they come off turn 3, Butcher, he's going to be a sitting target for Kardash. He switched to the inside line. Kardash has got an opportunity round the outside. He brakes late, he keeps the car very travelled on the outside line. And Butcher has to move to cover the line. Excellent racecraft from the two. And Kardash knows he's got Butcher on the ropes. He can go for the kill.
Butcher's looking a lot twitchy than Kardash here, which is interesting because Kardash should be. He's in the turbulent air, but Butcher is feeling really, really nervous in front here. Incidentally, Rojak did get back past Galka and has now extended out a little bit of a gap as well, so that's done and dusted for the time being. Right, Butcher feeling the pressure even down the back straight, and that's not normally an overtaking opportunity. So he's just trying to keep Kardash off his tail so that Kardash can't go for it down into to turn 1.
Do you know what, Caitlin? If I'm Tom Stevens in third position, I'm looking after my tyres like crazy because these two up front are getting very close to each other. If Tom Stevens has got a decent set of boots going into the final lap, he could snatch a second place finish, maybe even the win.
Yeah, it'll be really tough, I think. I mean, he's only 2.5 seconds back, but realistically, he's going to need these two to come together, which I'm afraid with a race like this isn't hugely unlikely. We saw it a couple of years ago in this very race, GPVWC Supercup Bahrain. But anyway, down into turn 1 again. Butcher was able to fend off Kardash that time. Or more to the point, Kardash wasn't quite able to get close enough to Butcher. Kardash a lot closer on the exit turn 3, but that's a shorter straight, and it's uphill as well. You need more of a run. Oh, he's touched him! Look at that! Touches him in the rear, has a bit of a twitch, and Butcher keeps it on the road. So Kardash there got off slightly worse, and still, well, he's only lost about 3 tenths per second in that. So as tough as that was, and as close as that was to disaster, it hasn't really affected things that much. But that would have got the heart races running.
Certainly would. I think the mechanical issues for Vincent Kiersmakers have finally proved terminal. His car has pulled off in the last couple of laps, so we saw his car smoking quite badly. And certainly on the first lap, it's not exactly normal, but it's certainly understandable if the cars have been overheating a little bit on the first part of the course. But certainly now in the tail end of the race, the cars will only be smoking that much if there is a terminal problem or if the drivers have overworked it. And unfortunately, Vincent Kiersmakers becomes the 4th retirement after Blake Checkitts, Carlos Fernandez, and rather controversially, Luke Maguire. And that conversation between himself and Owen McGorgy could be ongoing, as the man in 5th position is still likely to bank some points. The potential race winner, Luke Maguire, will score none. Now, this is going to be a fascinating run between Butcher and Kardash, and this is game time, 2 laps to go. So now we're going to see Damien Kardash pull out his A game. Oh, he's got very loose there on the exit of the first hairpin. That's going to kill any chance he might have had of going for the move in turn 4.
They've got a little bit of traffic up ahead of them, and they're battling, so this could get a little feisty here. Talking of battling, Moritz Kropp is right on the tail of Michal Galka as well. He wasn't there before, so he's been gaining, and there may end up being a fight between those two before the end of the race if Galka can't get back ahead of Rojak. So those 3 right together. Back to Butcher and Kardash. They're in possibly the most difficult corner of the track here, and on the exit there's a DRS zone. Kardash opens the wing and gets slightly closer to Butcher, just as he has there the last few laps. He's going to drop back a little again in the S's, and it's all about the exit here, and especially the exit of the final corner, Jake.
Absolutely. Kardash cannot afford to make a single mistake for the rest of this race, because he knows he's got the opportunity here on Butcher. Butcher is very much in race-winning position, but it's all down to Kardash. He's got to be so patient, but he's also got to be quite wise on the way he deals with each apex. This is nice from Kardash, and we go into the final lap. This is the lap that's going to crown us a race 1 winner. Here is the final tour at Bahrain International Circuit. Last lap begins, and it's all or nothing for Kardash. He knows it. Is there going to be a move from Butcher to the block and defend? Yes, there is. He sends him around the long way. Kardash commits round the outside, and he's going to have him. Brilliant overtaking move. There's no room for Butcher to counter-attack, and Kardash gets the move. Butcher is now doing all of the chasing. Beautiful overtaking maneuver, and an amazing opportunity from Damien Kardash, which he snatched.
That was absolutely beautiful. Someone else tried to do the same thing earlier in the race and found that the other car on the inside just found so much grip on the exit and was able to sweep straight through. In this case, that didn't happen. Kardash was just able to find so much more grip than Butcher, and that traction is what powered him through. So Damien Kardash, and there's contact between 2 cars ahead of them. Now they've got past them. Oof. They've got past them, but that could have been everything. That could have changed the entire complexion of the race.
That was Mark Fuller. It was Mark Fuller and Vincent Gertz, and they got very close indeed there, Caitlin.
Just a few corners to go. Final straight.
It's not done yet. It's not done yet. Look, I think Kardash is twitching a little bit here, Caitlin. Butcher may have one final chance. Kardash goes wide. Butcher's going to have a bit more momentum. He can slingshot it into the final turn. Kardash is going to protect to the inside line. Butcher may have one last chance if he gets the final corner. Just so. The back end's going to get too squirrely. He should have made the move. It could have worked. But it's going to be Damien Kardash. Kardash is going to get the victory after a stunning final lap. Excellent race. What a feature race here in Bahrain. And it is Damien Kardash who gets it from Chris Butcher and Tom Stevens.
We barely even noticed Stevens coming third there. What a race between Kardash and Butcher. Came right down to the final corner. George Sutton is 4th, followed by Owen McGorgy. Owen McGorgy did well to finish 5th there after the various incidents he had. Jason Muscat 6th, then it's Patrick Rojak, who fends off and beats Michal Galka, who himself fends off and beats Moritz Kropp. Then it's Menno Klont, Liam Rant, Darius Andre, Philip Koenig, Craig Patterson, and Jakub Kalbacik, the driver. Kalbacik's going to have to fend off Ely. He's just going to manage it down towards the start-finish straight here. So those are your points finishers. Ely just misses out, so do Titanen, Gazovsky, Sovic, Ragoza, Matiak, Frelich, Vincentievich, Hutt, Fuller, Gut, and all of your retirements. So that's that for the race, and what a race it was, Jake.
Absolutely thrilling. That is how to kickstart the Bahrain meeting between these two races, and not only have we had a thrilling race battle that went right down to the line, but we also had plenty of controversy. How do you call that between Luke Maguire and Owen McGorgy? That is a conversation that could rumble on, and Maguire, of course, has now got to get his head in the game and go off the back of the field. Here is the provisional result. Damien Kardash ahead of Chris Butcher. Tom Stevens in third from George Sutton. Owen McGorgy and Jason Muscat in the top 6. From Patrick Rojak, Michael Galka, Moritz Kropp and Menno Klont in the top 10. The final points positions are Liam Rance and Darius Andre from Philip Koenig, Craig Patterson and Jacob Kolbarczyk in the 15th spot. Tom Ely and Michael Teichmann from Matthias Guzowski, then Scott Sovic and Alexander Ragoza in the top 20. Colin Matiak is next up from Simon Frelich, who had a big problem mid-race. Then Dan Hutt, Mihailo Vincicevic, Mark Fuller and Vincent Good, who had their little wheel banging in the final tour. And then the retirements, Vincent Kiersmakers, Luke Maguire, and then Carlos Fernandez and Blake Checkitts, both out of the race in the early couple of laps. But none is more controversial than Luke Maguire's retirement. What is that going to mean for the battle for the title fight? Well, it's definitely going to be a massive compromise as far as his campaign is concerned, but it's also going to garner an awful lot of debate. We have a sensational race win, though, from the man on the straight who is having a bit of a party. Oh, he's trying desperately to get donuts nailed. I don't think you iced that one particularly well there, Damien, but now he's got it sorted. Damien Kardash celebrating victory in sensational style here at Bahrain. He's very happy with that one. He parks in nicely as well there on the pit wall, and he can enjoy and savour the moment there, of course. It's always very, very important to celebrate getting that race done. It was absolutely brilliant racing, and it means so much when you win at this level, Caitlin. It's so hard to win in GPVWC, so you savour the moment when they come.
Absolutely, you do. I've got a GPVWC win under my belt. ITC Division 2 at Sydney in 2019, and yeah, I'm still savouring that to this day. As
yeah,
you can
I still
tell.
don't have one of those.
Anyway,
I haven't quite got off the starting line of my races yet, so I haven't quite managed to get that one done. I'm sure though. Yeah, I'm sure people can tell me what it's like. I've started winning iRacing events finally, so maybe GPVWC, there is a future after all. Maybe. We will have to see. Now, I'm told that there is actually going to be a non-start for Carlos Fernandez. Apparently the suspension is broken, so he's not going to be able to take up the start for race 2. That is unfortunate, considering he was just a whisker off the top 10 in qualifying.
It was indeed, and he was one of the first retirements in race 1. We're actually going to go for a 5-minute or so break now, and we're going to be back for race 2. But don't go anywhere, because we have a partially reverse grid race coming up very, very shortly. It's going to be good. See you then.
It's time then for the sprint race here at Bahrain International Circuit for the GPVWC 2021 Super Cup. It's the second weekend of the season, and here's the grid for the sprint race. Jason Muscat will take up residency on pole position on the reverse grid. Owen McGorgy is second position. A great chance for him to snatch a win. George Sutton and Tom Stevens on the second row of the starting grid. The top two men in race one, Chris Butcher starts fifth, and the race one winner, Damien Kardash, starts from P6. Then it's Patrick Rojak and Michel Galka that line up on the fourth row of the grid. To round up the top 10, it is Moritz Kropp, who lines up ninth place, Menno Klont, who lines up P10. Then it is the Satellite Twins, Liam Rance and Darius Andre, that share the sixth row of the starting grid. Philip Koenig has made amazing progress. He's up to 13th for the grid for this one. Craig Patterson starts P14 on the seventh row. Jacob Kalbarczyk is 15th place alongside Tom Ely for the RTD Racing Squad. 17th is the Friesland Racing Team driver Michael Teichmann alongside Matthias Guzowski of the PZZW team. Scott Sovic lines up 19th, and then it's Alexander Ragoza in the second PZZW car. Colin Matiak for the PB Racing team is 21st on the grid from Simon Freilich, hoping to charge up from 22nd. Dan Hutt and Mihaljo Visencevic are together on the 12th row of the starting grid. Mark Fuller and Vincent Gut are likely to renew their battle from the first race. They'll be together on row 13. Vincent Kiersmacher lines up 27th. Luke Maguire has to go off 28th after his race one ending incident. Carlos Fernandez and Blake Checketts will hopefully both be on the starting grid for row 15 of the starting grid. It's definitely going to be a tough one. Another race prediction, Caitlin. This one is a very tough one to predict, but can Owen McGorgy put right what he got wrong in race one?
So my dice got very close to being correct in race one, but I've given it another go for race two. It says 2, so that would be Owen McGorgy actually, and I would think that is a very good prediction. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being true, only because of the die roll, obviously.
It's definitely going to be tricky to predict. It's a shorter race, it's a sprint, so obviously everybody's going to be going on the tyres that they possibly can. I think only Jason Muscat is on softs, everybody else is on medium tyres. So Jason Muscat definitely in a very dangerous position as the lone ranger on soft tyres. It's time for the sprint race here at Bahrain International Circuit, the GPVWC Super Cup 2021 second round of the season. Jake Sanson and Caitlin Penny in the commentary box, Heigo Poom in the broadcast direction booth. We are going to have a thrilling race ahead of us as the 19 laps will count down in this second race of the day. Jason Muscat, pole position. Owen McGorgy, second. From Sutton, Stevens, Butcher and Kardash. Who's going to get the win? In 19 laps, we'll find out. Let's race again at Bahrain! Fantastic start from Jason Muscat. McGorgy's going to try and get even better off the line, but it is going to be Muscat that runs to the first corner first. Is he going to get the launch to the inside line? Indeed, McGorgy does not wait around. He launches straight to the inside line. Is everybody going to get through behind them? Looks as though they have. And McGorgy's got straight through into the lead. No waiting around. Muscat is there in second place, immediately to try and come back into the lead. And as they go down towards the fourth corner, Muscat is going to try on the inside of McGorgy. McGorgy holds his nerve. So does Muscat. Side by side, and Muscat retakes the lead. McGorgy has no response.
Great move, look at that. Also, Muscat, worth noting, he's on the softer compound of tyre. We know that Muscat is the king of long tyre runs, and he's certainly going for another one of his legendary ones here. But yeah, good move from Muscat. He retakes the lead of the race, and McGorgy has to settle for second. But anyway, a little bit close down behind. Cars getting very, very close into the double left-hander. Michael Teichmann losing out a lot after running over the infield. But McGorgy's running very wide. McGorgy running very wide.
McGorgy did run wide. He's down to fourth position. I was going to say, a sensational opening lap from Maguire. He's gone up to 17th position from 28th on the grid. So Maguire is doing everything he can to get himself back in a position, but McGorgy is not finding this race win as easy as he would have thought. Going into turn one, his teammate Stevens has got by him. McGorgy is now going to try and use his teammate to his advantage, but now we've got Galka and Kardash closing in. Butcher down to 7th off the grid. So this could be a fascinating run to the first corner for Owen McGorgy. He hasn't got DRS, nor has Galka, but Galka's got a better line off the turn. Sutton is having to play ultra defensive to Stevens. Stevens going very long in the brakes around the outside. McGorgy is going to lose out to Galka. Galka gets through. Stevens gets by on Sutton.
Great move from Stevens. Also, Luke Maguire is up 10 positions on the first lap. And Shimon Frelich, I'm afraid, has spun to the back. Watch Stevens and Sutton again. Steven fends him off. What about on the exit? You've got the two Gallery 82 cars right in behind, fighting with George Sutton and fending off Owen McGorgy. McGorgy losing loads and loads of time and positions and all of that. Big shame. And he's got a lot of work ahead of him in this race. Muscat's lead is now 1.7 seconds, so he's been building it out here, and that's important in a race where DRS is going to be as eligible as ever when it's activated on lap 3. So Muscat getting away, and the real battle is for second behind him.
This is a fairy tale for Jason Muscat, who we know is very good at handling his tyres. He just needs to keep himself in a stable position up front, and he can get the job done before half distance. Meanwhile, Stevens, Sutton, Galka and Kardash are the ones in pursuit. McGorgy has really struggled to get that car to a decent position and in a good rhythm in the opening couple of laps. And here comes Butcher to try and make his bid on the inside of McGorgy. I wonder what the team strategy is going to be there from Butcher to nail McGorgy before he even has a second chance to do anything about it, as a little bit of retaliation maybe for what happened between his teammate Luke Maguire and Owen McGorgy. Surely this is going to be Butcher's chance to get through on the inside line to compromise McGorgy. McGorgy goes long. There was a little bit of a nudge between the two cars. Butcher unable to get past McGorgy initially, but surely he'll have the DRS open this time, which he does. And this is going to be the chance surely for Butcher. He's not going to wait around, but he's going to give McGorgy plenty to think about on the way through turn 4. He doesn't make the overtaking move stick, but Butcher is absolutely adamant. You are not going to finish ahead of me this time.
I'm afraid Vicentijevic, Ely, Keersmakers and Fuller were all in the pits at the end of the first lap, so there was a little bit more carnage this time around than there was in race 1. We saw some of it with Shimon Frelich going spinning off. Not entirely sure who else was involved in that one, but there were a couple of front wings littered around the circuit. Whatever the case, so the gap for the lead now 2 seconds, so Muscat continuing to build it up. But remember, he's on those softer tyres, so it's all going to be about whether he still has tyre life left at the end of the race or not. Stevens actually doing a pretty good job to be that close to him right now, and it looks as if Stevens has now broken the DRS from Sutton behind. So Sutton now with no support, vulnerable to Michal Galka maybe.
Now, Muscat can afford to lose about 0.8 of a second over the course of the next 10 laps, but not much more than that, because the second he gets into DRS range, closing in on him, the moment that Stevens has a chance to close up on Muscat and DRS, that's when he's going to become more vulnerable, as around the outside, that is Kardash trying to stop McGorgy coming through. McGorgy makes it work, though, and Kardash is desperately trying to get back on terms, so they're going to go side by side down the straight.
And
McGorgy holding the car. Oh, yes, that's Galka for third position on Sutton, as Kardash comes around the outside of McGorgy, and Butcher's there as well. 3 of them, they go side by side, and Kardash is going to get held up. Butcher gets both of them in one fell swoop. What a move from Butcher. Excellent.
Well, that's the move of the day. I was sure they were going to come together there. I was absolutely sure, but somehow Butcher makes it stick. That's amazing driving. From the former Formula Challenge champion. He's not a champion for no reason, and you just saw it demonstrated there, the reason. Michal Galka has had so many attempts at Sutton on this lap, just had another one. But yeah, Sutton's still in that third position for Red Arrow Racing. The Gallery 82 guy is doing well, 4th and 6th to present. Kardash will feel that he should be doing better, but Sutton on the exit, Galka's got him. So Galka with a much better run through the corner than Sutton. I think Sutton must have had a twitch on entry or something like that, because Galka is through and Sutton is in the DRS now.
Certainly is. This is a really good bit of racecraft from Michel Galka. He's really stepping on every opportunity he's got. I don't think Sutton thought there was going to be a chance to get by. And now Galka is actually playing sensible. Look, he's going to run round the outside. Sutton's going to have the inside line, but Galka just keeps his foot planted and holds him at his will. Sutton, though, commits to the outside line and manages to drive the car around, gets back into third position. Galka's not done yet. He's actually going to try and stick it to the inside line on Sutton. He keeps the wheel in, but he has to concede it. Sutton holds on to that third position. A big twitch between Galka and Butcher. Butcher losing massive ground. I thought he was going to have a run at Galka on the way down the hill, but in fact, he had to keep his car very much on the straight and narrow as Butcher and Kardash continue their duel over 5th and 6th position. McGorgy is there in 7th place. This is a very, very difficult situation between these three drivers.
That was a case of knowing the rules for Galka. So long as you've got two wheels over the white line, you're considered as being on the track, and any move you make is completely legal. And he knew that and put his car almost entirely off the road, but just about on. As wow, you see Philip Koenig fighting with Gazowski and Maguire behind. So Maguire making up more positions, up to P14 at this point in time. Not bad at all. Fastest lap of the race, as well as off the road slightly goes Koenig. So Maguire's going to get him on the exit. He'll be up to 13th at the end of this lap. Well and truly into the points. Could easily, well, I say easily. Koenig gets touched. Yep, Koenig gets touched from Magowski, and Gazowski, sorry, and they just about get away with it, but some lost positions there for Gazowski.
This could get messy into the first corner because we've got Patterson, Koenig, Vergoza and Gazowski all there together in the first corner. Koenig is desperately trying to be the man who comes out in front of them all. And it's side by side between the teammates at PZZW as Vergoza and Gazowski have a terrific duel through turn 1. That was so lucky for Philip Koenig. He lost the back end there as he tried to keep himself under wraps behind Luke Maguire. Maguire, though, making steady progress up to 13th. And now we're going to see the feisty nature of Butcher as he tries to close up on Galka for 4th position. We're now watching the battle between Magorgi and Rojak. So Patrick Rojak in the Lightning Racing Academy car, trying to close up on the man who was fighting for the victory in race 1 before his now infamous moment with Luke Maguire that certainly ended the latter's race. Down to the braking zone, in through the left-hander. Elevation of camber through the turn, and that always unsettles the car a touch. But a very nice run from the guys up at the front end of the field. It's getting a little bit hectic out there, and of course they don't have to worry too much about pit stops because there shouldn't be any in this race. What they do still have to keep an eye on, though, is tyre management. They can still snatch a good 2 or 3 positions in the closing stages of the race if they're able to manage their tyres any better. Speaking of which, Muscat out in front. The gap between him and Stevens is steady at about 1.8. He doesn't need to pull clear. He doesn't need to set fastest laps. He just needs to stay at about that sort of pace as we ride on board with Kalbarczyk trying to make his move on Craig Patterson. Patterson has DRS as well, though. Of course, Kalbarczyk has the slipstream down the main straight. He's going to have to go left because that's where Patterson's sending him. They're going to get into the braking zone as Patterson misses his braking point there completely and very nearly clatters into the back of Alexander Vergoza. That was so near for Craig Patterson, but that has unsettled him. Kalbarczyk now has a chance to make a move all of his own to get through on the inside line. He's trying for the switchback maneuver on the inside for the undercut, and it hasn't quite pulled off yet.
And McGorky up to 6th out of Kardash, so a race 1 winner down to 7th place now. Not the best race 2s, not the best of race 2s for him. But anyway, McGorky recovering.
Whoa.
And recovering another place.
Sorry, Kalbarczyk, the car just washed out from under him, and that has cost him a position to not only Patterson but also to Carlos Fernandez. So a big issue for Kalbarczyk. He just got on the power a fraction too early as the car was travelling over the curb, and the car just washed out from under him, and now Gazowski has a chance to get through. So big issues there. Stevens and Sutton are still trying to stay with the race leader, Jason Muscat, but Muscat is doing an absolutely fascinating run for the competition. And here is the battle in the top 5. This is Chris Butcher in behind Galka, and then we've still got Owen McGorgy running a very solid race, it has to be said, in 6th position. Those first couple of laps could really have ruined his race, but he's been able to get the car back together. He's just set the fastest lap of the race as well, so this is a good comeback from McGorgy. What about Butcher on Galka? He is going to try and get the switchback maneuver on the undercut. A couple of cars behind, we've got a great little tussle as well. That's Kardash and Rojak. So Kardash desperately trying to stay in front of Patrick Rojak, and Rojak doing his best to hold on to the position, while also keeping the car very wide indeed, as side by side Butcher gets alongside Galka. Galka will not give him the space in the other Gallery 82 car. Butcher spent the entirety of the last part of the race battling with the Gallery 82 car of Kardash, and now he's having to do it again, this time with Michel Galka.
Oh, Rojak was all over the back of Kardash there. I thought he was going to go for a dive into the right-hander, thought better of it. But, yeah, my goodness. Change for 11th there. Andre passing Krop right over the runoff area. Our first official retirement from the race is Shimon Frelick. Shame for him. Still 29 cars running, though. Very, very busy racetrack out there. And nowhere more busy than 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, etc., etc. This is a great, great race here.
So down the final run to the final turn. That is Menno Klont we're watching at the moment. 10th position. Currently trying to get close to Kardash, Rojak, Rance, the three drivers in the mix there. Owen McGorgy setting the fastest lap of the race last time around, a 1:35.1. So a very solid effort from him on a 1:35.9 at the moment. Still within firing line of Jason Muscat's pace, as Chris Butcher now runs in behind Michel Galka, and they are still very close to
and the big spin.
Yep, we had a problem in the background there. Well spotted, Caitlin. Now, who is that that's gone? I believe that is Krop. So I think Krop has gone down the order. That's a real shame for Moritz Krop, who was battling away. He's managed to get himself going again, but you were absolutely spot on there, Caitlin. Big problems for Krop.
And he was fighting with someone. I think there may have been some he's fighting with Maguire. And that's where Maguire, of course, came together with McGorgy. And once again, it was a very similar collision, but this time Maguire got away with it and was very lucky to do so, Jake.
So Maguire not having the best of times at turn 1 today. He's going to have all sorts of interesting conversations about how his weekend has gone after that, but at least now he is fighting fit and up in the points, making good progress here, Luke Maguire. There's his teammate, Chris Butcher, running in P5. Yellow in Sector 2. Now, that is the sector we have just gone through. So there's clearly been an issue somewhere in the second sector. Didn't quite see who it was that either gained an advantage as a result or ended up coming a cropper in regards to it. But certainly the battle is raging for second position downwards. Stevens, Sutton, Galka, Butcher, McGorgy as they run together. And I think we've got a slower car up in front of Muscat. Now that could cause all sorts of difficulties for Jason Muscat, as the gap is still steady at 1.9 seconds. We're on board with Chris Butcher. With Owen McGorgy even. So McGorgy down to the braking point for the first corner. Chris Butcher! That caught him out there. McGorgy very nearly ploughed straight into the rear wing of Chris Butcher, because Butcher was being very careful through that first apex, and McGorgy suddenly realised, I'm catching Butcher very quickly indeed. Just look at how hard it is to keep the car on the straight and narrow through those tough braking zones in the right-handers. You can see Butcher's car sliding as he tries to get good power down, but the car is just so tempted to snap away. And it's taking all of his strength and all of his commitment to keep the car pointing in the straight and narrow.
Move for 14th as well. Hats off to Carlos Fernandez. Remember, he started 29th in this race after someone's gone around in the back there. Oh, that was Patrick Rojak. So Rojak, who was right up there, I think he was about P8, and he is all the way down to P11. But anyway, as we were saying, Carlos Fernandez started 29th. Didn't know whether he was going to start at all, and he's made up 15 positions in this race. He's in the points, and good for him. But yeah, spin there for Patrick Rojak, I'm afraid.
And just the one retirement so far, that is Simon Frelick, who had his problems in race 1 and has not been able to get to the end of race 2. We're going into lap 11 now. We're past half distance. We have just 9 to go and 10 completed. Yellow in sector 3 apparently. Now there's only 2 corners of sector 3, so someone's had an incident there that has dropped a couple of drivers down the order. So we'll have to pick that one up as they come through. And that is the battle getting very tight indeed again between Sutton, Galka, Butcher, McGorgy. Very close indeed between these four as they are egging each other on to get on the power just a fraction early as Galka pulls out of the slipstream of Sutton to try and break the toe from Butcher behind him. Butcher's got McGorgy breathing down his neck now as well. So this is all about second-guessing the opposition and trying to bag as many points from this race as possible because neither McGorgy or Maguire are going to get the victory this time in either of the races. Now, who is that getting out of the way? I would guess that is probably Mark Fuller once again, just letting the drivers go. So Sutton is there in front of Galka, Butcher, McGorgy. And then Kardash is a few car lengths further back, but he is still effectively there in position. This is all exactly what Jason Muscat wanted to see. He just needs to keep this pace up, essentially. He doesn't need to push. He just needs to keep the car very much pointing in the straight direction. That makes a mistake there from Galka, and that's enough for Butcher to storm him. McGorgy's going to have a similar opportunity. Dives up the inside. Butcher took advantage of that. McGorgy hesitated, and that was all that Butcher needed to get into fourth place. Galka is now going to be on the back foot on the way to the final turn, Caitlin.
Yeah, look at this. Here goes McGorgy on the outside. And Galka's going to still keep that position just about. Now, why that happened was Galka got over the curb, and the underside of the car basically went for a wall ride, as you see with skateboards, and there was just no stopping the car. So wide he went. Here goes McGorgy again and contact just about. Well, somehow they get away with it. Galka there, he wasn't going for a move on Butcher, but he was kind of forced into one when he misjudged the braking zone while trying to defend from McGorgy. And I do not understand how he didn't go ploughing into Butcher. Butcher must have seen him coming.
Yeah, you see, he had one eye on his mirror, didn't he? He was so busy watching McGorgy, he suddenly realised, oh blast, I've got Butcher right in front of me.
Did they make contact? I think they may have done.
There was a slight wheel bang. There was a slight banging of wheels. That's all it was. Goodness me.
Wow. Yeah, that was a disaster in the making, and somehow it was prevented. So great driving from Butcher to avoid that.
Yeah, it was great response from Butcher. I think he realised that something was on and just went, right, I just need to roll off the power, keep the steering nice and planted, don't get a bit panicky, just hold the car at bay. And that was well held, actually. So it was a fantastic little bit of racecraft from them. Meanwhile, up front, Jason Muscat is loving this. He's still a good 1.8 or so ahead of Tom Stevens, although now, as we head into lap 13, Stevens has realised, OK, Muscat is on softs. I'm on mediums. These tyres are going to last longer than Jason. I can push now. I've been working hard on these tyres. I don't have to push until now. This is his moment. Look at the background. We've got this amazing squabble still going on between Butcher, Galka and McGorgy. And Butcher is almost certainly going to have a bit of opposition here from Galka heading into the first corner. Butcher trying to hold the car. And look, the back end kicked out. There was nothing Galka could do but run into the back of Butcher's car because Butcher's car got loose. And now McGorgy surely is going to have a great run on Galka. Galka swarms around, not going to give McGorgy an inch. And so Owen McGorgy now tries to run around the outside and cut the switch to the inside line. Well held by Galka. Amazing racecraft.
Even more contact than a lap ago. Also, Rance, Clont, Andre and Maguire going at it 2x2 into turn one. Oh, massive twitch from Rance, and that was a good save there. I would have spun off into the gravel in a heartbeat there. But anyway, Liam Rance saves it and keeps going. P8 for him. But yeah, you don't know where to look at this point in the race. I think that McGorgy is feeling the pressure. Well, he was definitely feeling the pressure there from Damien Kardash. So both Gallery 82s well and truly involved in Butcher's race and McGorgy's race. Sorry, right now either side of him, sandwiching him close, and Kardash is here to relieve the pressure from his teammate.
So this is it, the final phase of the meet here at Bahrain in Supercup. And it's now or never. The drivers are pushing hard. Damien Kardash is now getting it very, very stuck in there behind McGorgy as we watch the battle further back. This is Clont. And then we've got Andre and Maguire. Maguire is trying to get himself in there as he moves further forward. Watch out for Maguire. Now, here we go again. This is Galka and Magorgi. Magorgi's going deep. I don't think Galka's going to be able to hold him with Magorgi holding his nerve on the inside line. Galka runs it right on the outside and keeps the Gallery 82 car very much in position. Magorgi is going to have to try another trick or two up his sleeve. Here he goes, left side. That's where Galka places him. Hold it. Travels across the apron, and that's well held by Galka.
Three-way further back contact between Rance, Claude, and his teammate Andre, and Rance went AWOL right the way across the chicane, and somehow managed to rejoin without hitting anyone just straight away. But three-wide sandwich up into turn 4, which involved two teammates.
Do you know what, Caitlin? This isn't easy going for Luke Maguire because he's right at the back of these three and he's trying to make as much progress as possible. He's got to try and commit to this inside line manoeuvre for 10th place. He's got to get stuck in and he's going to make it work.
Wow.
Beautiful from Luke Maguire. Oh, and a spin. It's a spin there from Andre. I think he was trying desperately to hang on to the car as he came off the turn. The problem was you've got to get on the throttle. Otherwise, you're going to lose so much momentum. And unfortunately, he was already on the curb at that point. So the car just washes out from underneath him in a very similar fashion to what we saw from a couple of the drivers earlier on. I'm just looking at that incident again. Maguire, he has the inside line. He nails it. He does go very late on the way through the corner. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is then that Andre, having already committed to that line on the outside, keeping one wheel on the curb, he's already getting on the power, and that's enough to swap the car's ends. Now, we've got this battle again as Magorgi commits on the outside to Galka. They're still side by side. Galka has to pull across. Magorgi's still there, though. He can't shut the door. Magorgi's going to keep the car on the inside line. Stunning! Absolutely stunning from Magorgi. Galka's still trying to keep it. Job done. Owen Magorgi's got him. Nice.
Faster than lightning on the straight. Wing wider open than our mouths when watching that move, and he's through. So the teammates are together. The two Gallery 82 Motorsport cars are together, but Magorgi is ahead of them, and that is not where they want to see him right now. On the exit, Galka gets a good run. Magorgi covers it off, tries to break the slipstream, and managed it for the time being. Now he knows that he can't really go off to Butcher. It's all about Galka here.
Here we go.
Jason Muscat's tyres going off because Tom Stevens is within DRS range of him, and this is what we expected might happen towards the end of the race. The battle for the lead is on at last.
Jason Muscat, the tyre conservation king, is up against Tom Stevens, the young pretender to the throne, in the hunt for his first win in Supercup. So Tom Stevens with a great chance here on Jason Muscat. This is an absolute battle for the ages to come because one is on mediums, the other is on softs. Yes, the soft compound is traditionally faster, but there is not a lot of life in Muscat's tyres as again Galka tries to hang on, having just got back past Owen Magorgi. Now Magorgi's got to try and convince himself he's not going to lose this place after all. Around the outside, he has better conviction, but again, Galka just brings the car back across the apron. And watch out for Kardash because the team could double up. And Kardash is looking for a way past Magorgi. Magorgi travels too far through the apex in the right-hander because the car just washes out again in the dirty air. And Kardash has a real opportunity now on Magorgi, but Magorgi is settling straight back onto the rear wing of Galka's car. He does not want Kardash to become a threat because he knows how strong he is around here. Oh, Kardash is gone! He manages to catch it before he hits anything, but that's Kardash well and truly gone from this fight as Magorgi gets stuck in again round the outside of Galka. Can he commit around the outside? Surely not! He's going to keep it! Oh my goodness, what a move!
That's the move of someone with conviction. That was taken with conviction and concentration and everything else starting with CON. That was brilliant. And well done from Owen Magorgi. Now, Jason Muscat and Tom Stevens onto the straight. Stevens closer than he has been for this entire race so far. He's getting closer and closer. Goes to the outside. The move for the lead may be on here. It's all about where the grip is on the exit, and he finds it. He finds the grip. Tom Stevens takes the lead.
That is such a good move from Tom Stevens. Absolutely mesmerising. Now he's got to try and hold him off because Muscat can still have a little bit of acceleration off the turns, but no, Stevens positions the car absolutely spot on.
Rance in the gravel. Rance has spun into the gravel, I'm afraid. He was fighting with Luke Maguire. Maguire got through, and as we've seen so many times in this race, once you get off the line and you're distracted by an opponent, you can very easily just drop it and spin.
Yeah, that's a simple error, unfortunately, there for Rance, so he's going to have to try and recover, and has done so, actually, to the tune of 11th place in front of Koenig. But now look at Stevens. He's just disappearing in front of Jason Muscat, who has held on as long as humanly possible with that set of soft tyres, but he was the only one to roll the dice to see if he could make it work. Fortunately for him, he has got enough of a gap in front of George Sutton. Mike Bell must be absolutely laughing into his cocoa at the moment, because this is his predicted top three. Stevens first, Muscat second, Sutton third. It's genuinely coming true for Mike Bell, the man who predicted this before the start of the race. So could well be... Oh, now hang on. Is that Kardash running wide? It is. Yes, Kardash has run very wide there on the entry to the third sector. So not as smooth a race in race 2 in the sprint race as it was in the feature. But Michel Galka has not given up on Owen McGorgy. 2 laps to go, and he's got another crack at him on the straight. DRS open. McGorgy defending. So much of a speed difference between the two cars. Michel Galka's going to go the long way. McGorgy will commit to the outside line for the braking of the apex. He keeps his wheels stuck in. Oh, brilliant.
Brilliant. Owen McGorgy past Michel Galka. We've seen some masterclasses in overtaking here today. And... Not so much defensive driving. We've seen some, but with the conviction that these drivers are showing here today, it's just so difficult to fend them off. So this is great driving and a really good showing of Super Cup talent. But anyway, talking of talent, Carlos Fernandez is up 19 positions from his starting place here. Look at that.
Fair play, 10th position for Fernandez. He can be very happy with his fight back, as the drivers are just struggling to get into the final points-paying positions here in Super Cup on the penultimate lap, and it's Stevens well and truly done. Michel Galka swarming around behind McGorgy, hoping to second-guess him, but I think McGorgy, certainly for the moment at least, has definitely got Galka nailed, and these two can settle into a rhythm in the closing stages. Galka is doing his best to get back on terms with McGorgy, but it's definitely looking pretty rosy for these two to be in 5th and 6th position, unless Galka has something pretty spectacular up his sleeve. Out in front, though, it's all about Stevens. He goes into his final lap, and what a drive it's been from Tom Stevens, just keeping himself in the mix, and now he just has to cruise home in this final lap. He's got enough of an advantage over Muscat. You can see Butcher up in front with a back marker. McGorgy trying to defend again from Galka. Galka goes long around the outside. Now you can really go for it. But again, McGorgy just keeps the car perfectly placed. No way through.
Indeed, Owen McGorgy still in 5th position there. Galka going for it again. And Galka likes the inside line for turn 4. He likes going all the way over to the right on the straight, but can't quite find a way through this time around. We've only got one more lap after this one, so he's got to do it quickly. But yeah, this battle for 5th, 6th, 7th, etc. This could have gone any way at any point in this race. Oh, and Galka loses it. Galka's spinning, and well, it's going to be a good save. My goodness!
What a save! What a save for Michel Galka.
He's lucky the corner was at that angle, wasn't he?
You know what? That's pure Sebastian Loeb what he did there. Absolutely mesmerising. But this man out front, it is finally an opportunity that Tom Stevens will savour and absolutely cherish. Cometh the man, cometh the hour. He's been absolutely superb in this race, just following Muscat, waiting till his tyres came in, and now he can savour it. He can cherish it. He can absolutely monster it. Tom Stevens wins the sprint race here in Bahrain. Absolutely sensational run from him in Super Cup 2021. He starts his season in the second weekend with a win in front of Muscat, Sutton and Butcher. McGorgy hangs on just in front of Galka and Kardash for a thrilling race, and fair play to Luke Maguire, just in behind Menno Clant. Luke Maguire bounces back to 9th.
Really, really well done from Maguire. Great great fight through performance. And the same goes for Carlos Fernandez. Great drive in race 2 there to get up into 10th position. Rance was unlucky there after his misfortunes. And it's Koenig, Rojak, Andre, and Gazovsky who claims the final point there. Very close race all the way through. Great job from Jason Muscat actually to hold on those tires, because those tires would have seen better days by the end of this. Jason Muscat is so good on soft tires. He can just run them and run them until you're left to wonder what he's even driving on. He must be on threads by the end of the race. But yeah, what a win from Tom Stevens. He really had to fight for that win.
And that's such an important one for the team as well, because it wasn't just Owen McGorgy who had the pace today. Tom Stevens did as well. Yeah, he's going to enjoy the moment. He's got a lot more space to play with on the runoff area in Sector 2. And so Tom Stevens enjoys the moment. Just a quick little donut for him. That's all he needs to savour the moment. Absolutely brilliant from Tom Stevens. And the team can be very happy with their lot this weekend after 2 solid finishes in the top 6 for Owen McGorgy. 2 fifth-place finishes, in fact, from both races. But it's a fabulous result as far as the race winner is concerned. Tom Stevens takes the victory here in Bahrain after a thrilling and very tactical race drive. He's been absolutely stunning throughout, and a great result for him, a great victory. So it's Tom Stevens from Jason Muscat, George Sutton in 3rd position after a spectacular run, and then in 4th place for Chris Butcher. Owen McGorgy fights back to P5 in front of Michel Galka and Damien Cardage, who does come home in 7th place in the end of all that. Menno Clont, Luke Maguire and Carlos Fernandez, the 2 men who fought back from the doldrums. There is your provisional top 10. Pending investigations, we hope there are going to be none at all, because that was one heck of an exciting race, and we really did get treated to an absolute spellbinder from Tom Stevens in the win, right the way down to Carlos Fernandez. Liam Rance in 11th position in front of Philip Koenig, then Patrick Rojak and Darius Andre. Matthias Guzowski comes home 15th ahead of Scott Sovic and Craig Patterson. Vincent Gutt, Jacob Karbarczyk and Moritz Kropp, who had that spin earlier on, of course. Then Blake Checkett in 21st in front of Dan Hutt, Vincent Kiersmakers and Michael Teichmann. Then Conan Matiak and Tom Ely in front of Mihaljo, Vincent Cevic and Mark Fuller. And then we had Simon Frelich and Alexander Ragoza, who ended up being disqualified from the race for manoeuvres during the battle. What a sensational race it has been, and an absolutely thrilling end to an absolutely sensational race. And we are going to bring in the man who has taken victory in the second of the races this evening to get the ball rolling. We are going to talk to the man himself, Tom Stevens, and what a thrilling performance it was from Tom in that second race. Tom, such a controlled race in that one, because you knew that Jason obviously was on the softer tyres. They were going to die off, but what a brilliant race. Just describe your emotions and describe the race after what must have been so stressful for those 19 laps.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. That was a pretty incredible race. Obviously, Jason started on the softs and he pulled away on the start. Once I got past a few cars, they sort of battled a little bit behind me. So there was a bit of a gap between the cars in front and the cars behind. So I just took that as an opportunity to save the tyres. And I knew Jason was going to fall off at the end. And luckily, I managed to get past him in the final few laps.
So obviously now that first win is off your back a little bit, you can obviously now get himself into the season. This is turning into a really good start for the team. And it looks as though both of you now, have this ability to charge forward. Is this better than you could have planned for at this start, or is this still early stages as far as the team's development is concerned?
Well, we kind of came into the season just expecting some decent results, but so far it's been really good. And hopefully we can build on this and continue the momentum into the future, and we'll see how it goes.
Caitlin, any questions from your side?
Tom, as Jake said, it's still very early in the season and championship. Is this going to be your season?
Well, we'll have to wait to see. There's still plenty of time to go, and there's some incredible drivers in this grid, so it's not going to be easy.
Fair enough.
Thanks, Tom. A fantastic victory, brilliant result, and congratulations. Good job.
Right, thank you.
Let's grab a word with the man he just managed to overhaul in the end there, Jason Muscat. Jason, such a thrilling race battle all the way to the end there at the end of the sprint, and just such a big gamble from you to go onto the soft compounds. You almost made it work. I mean, what was it like in the closing stages once the tyres started to fall away?
Not much I could do, to be honest. I just kept my pace. If I pushed harder, it would have been worse. So I just needed to stick to my pace and settle for second, I guess. Unfortunately, I'm still struggling a lot with overall pace. Hopefully, we'll get it sorted for the next rounds. So I'll take second for today.
Yeah, you must have thought in the opening stages when you looked in the rearview mirror and saw the guys behind you battling away, you must have thought, well, this is it. The moment of truth is here. I've got this win on a plate, but it just wasn't quite as easy as that in the end.
Yeah, I hoped they would keep battling, but yeah, Tom managed to overtake the slower guys and catch up. So not much I could do there. I think I made no mistakes. I pushed to the limit on the soft tire. So yeah, I'm happy.
Fair play, a good result. Caitlin, anything to add from your side?
Jason, so what are your tips? How do you get your tires to last so long?
Take care of them.
Did you want to give away your secrets?
Go on, Jason. There must be more than that, because everyone knows that to make your tires last so long, you've got to be easy on them. But what does that actually mean? Why can you do it and no one else can?
Yeah.
To be honest, I cannot tell in some way, because obviously my teammate has the same setup as me, and still he gets like nearly 1% more tire wear per lap than me. So I think it's just the driving style, to be honest.
So the moral of the story is have a driving style like Jason Muscat's, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Jason. Brilliant performance today and a great podium finish. Well done, buddy.
Thank you.
Speaking of podium finishes, we should have a brief word with Chris Butcher, the man who so nearly clinched the victory in the feature race earlier on. Chris, great to see you at the front of a race battling again. After Australia, obviously this was a result that was needed and a fairly consistent weekend to get 2 top 5 finishes, but it was pretty stressful in race 1.
Yeah, it was. It was a heartbreak at the end there, in all honesty, sort of 13 laps in the lead, something like that, with no DRS. So yeah, pretty stressful drive, and unfortunately lost out on the last lap. But you know what? It's great to be back on the podium. It's been just over a year at GPV, so it's definitely a welcome return.
And of course, you had opportunities there with 2 or 3 other drivers. You were all battling for the victory and you all seemed to have that pace earlier on. Do you think there was anything that you could have done differently in those first couple of laps just to have tipped the scale a little bit more to your favour?
Maybe in hindsight, maybe not being as aggressive in turn 1, because I kind of got sandwiched in the middle and picked up a little bit of damage. So whether that cost me some pace or not, I'm not really sure. But yeah, other than that, probably nothing really. There wasn't any more pace on the table, and I don't feel like I really made any driving mistakes. So it was just one of those races where everyone was really competitive.
Understandable. Caitlin, any thoughts from your end?
Chris, what about that double overtake? Do you know the one I'm talking about? How fun was that?
Oh,
yeah. In race 2, I was grinning from ear to ear after that one. I'm amazed I pulled it off, in all honesty. But, I'm not sure who it was alongside me, but, fair play to those guys for giving everybody the respect in the racing room to do that.
It's just absolutely phenomenal. I think you got a lot of people's tongues wagging at that one. Hopefully there's a few more moves like that in 2021, Chris. Thank you so much. Really, really good entertainment tonight. Thanks for everything.
Cheers, guys.
Superb. Well, Caitlin, how do we sum that up? 2 cracking races. Bahrain has delivered yet again, and Supercup well and truly underway. Of course, the big talking point from that race, McGorgy versus Maguire. This could rumble on and on between these two this year.
It could, but I don't know how the championship stands right now. I'll have to check out the results when they're published. But yeah, you know, this could absolutely rumble on, and we saw today that it can get a bit too heated as well, as you often see in championship fights. I always expect Supercup to be exciting. I always expect GPVWC to be exciting. Supercup this year, the first 2 rounds of it have been absolutely bonkers, and I don't know what to expect for round 3, but I guess we'll have to wait 2 weeks now.
Indeed we will. Thank you so much for joining me in the commentary box, Caitlin. I'm looking forward to the next one a fortnight from now.
Indeed. Thank you, Jake. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Excellent race. It's been awesome. We've been absolutely wheel to wheel the whole way. GPVWC returns as we continue with our action next week. Keep up to date with everything that's going on at gpvwc.com. And of course, you can catch up with everything on the social media streams as well, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. Super Cup is alive and kicking in 2021. And after 2 rounds, we still don't have a clear title fight, but we definitely have a heck of a lot of drama. I'm Jake Sanson. See you next time.